This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a podcast full of Patreons. We have Eric joining us on the line right now. He's going to be talking Boston Celtics with us. Then we have John coming on later to talk about the college prospects and comparisons for them. And then we have our boy Z coming on to talk about his Phoenix Suns and should the Phoenix Suns take Ja Morant over Zion Williamson if they get the number one overall pick. And we'll also have Wet Boys in there as well. But before we jump into all of that, before we welcome in Eric for his first ever Patreon segment, we do want you to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We have 3 new tiers. We have the bronze tier where you get a ton of content just for $1 a month. You have the silver tier for the $5 a month thing where you get all the content, and then you can suggest a topic as well. Or you can join the gold membership where you get the silver and bronze stuff, and you get the ability to call in like Eric, like John, and like Z. And now let's move to Eric. And Eric, welcome on. We're glad to finally have you. There's been some problems getting you on with family stuff for you, but we're glad we can finally talk to you about the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here and kind of shoot the shit.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big thing we like to do here is shoot the shit. And we get yelled at it for sometimes, but
it's sort of our jam.
In the end, it's fun, and it's all that matters. And one thing that the Celtics were kind of doing was shooting the shit early on in the season. This was a team that was expected to have 60 wins, end up the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, but so far they've gotten off to a great start. In the first round, they have 3 wins over the Indiana Pacers, 84-74, 99-91, and then 104-96. They play tomorrow at noon to try to close that out in Indiana. So far, as a Boston fan, how has this playoff been? At least, how has this Boston season, the Celtics Celtics season, been for you so far?
Well, I mean, it's been a roller coaster, right? I even think Bill Simmons bet the over, right? It was like 64 wins or something like that.
Yeah, I think he said 67.
Yeah, I was 67. Looking that up, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I I grew up in Boston, like, with like, the Larry Bird area, so seeing this kind of hype was good, but they're not a team. I mean, anything with Kyrie is all about him. Mm-hmm. I think we have a decent shot just because of the overall talent, but, if he's your number one, I do have long-term concerns. So.
Yeah, the one thing I want to ask for you, I mean, so far these playoffs have been going well for the Celtics so far, and this has been a crazy, at least Boston year. You obviously have the Patriots winning back in February, and then before that you have the Red Sox winning in October. So what has this been like? Just being, and even the Bruins too in the first round, they're kind of dealing with a little bit with the Maple Leafs right now being down 3-2. But what has it been like, at least being a fan of these teams? If you are a fan of all 4 teams, I know you're a Patriot fan. What's it been like? Going through all the success. Has it been difficult?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's like every 3 months we win a championship around here. It seems like on one of the 4 major sports. But growing up, remember, like, for me, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, like, all the 4 Boston teams were awful. You know what I mean? The Red Sox, the Celtics had a run in the 80s, but, I mean, the Patriots, the Bruins, none of them really won championships except the Celtics. So now it's sort of overkill, or sort of you become used to it, and I think once Brady leaves and once Belichick leaves and once the Celtics don't have a plethora of New Jersey draft pick capital and kind of the good fortune of all these teams, it's going to be sort of a huge letdown. Like if you drink like a bunch of Red Bulls, it'll be kind of bad,
Yeah, you keep riding that wave, and it's been a long way for you guys. So I mean, it's good to see. But at least with the Celtics, this is a team obviously that this things might change big in the offseason with Kyrie, and let's jump into at least the talk so far. It's really about, can we trust the Boston Celtics? And you talked about it being a roller coaster. Has this been kind of one of the more like even lengths of the season for you right now? Has this been a way that you can kind of get into the Celtics and kind of trust that they can go into every single game and win?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about I'm a big proponent on the eye test, right? And if you're watching them and they're actually, making 2 and 3 passes when they bring it down the court, and it's not just one-on-one with Kyrie and or some ISO with Tatum, then we're gonna crush them. I mean, look at Game 3. I mean, Jaylen Brown was going off, and he's not even, he's our 4th or 5th option out there.
Yeah, that man couldn't miss.
So.
Yeah, and it's something that is definitely intriguing with the Celtics, because I mean, even last year, the past 2 years, you guys have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals and been so close. So I mean, Dave, looking at this so far, I mean, do you think that you can trust the Celtics, being not a Boston fan, being an outsider? Is this one of the better lengths you've seen of the Celtics so far this season?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the late year improvements from Gordon Hayward, I mean, we knew he wasn't healthy day one of the season, but as the season went on, we saw a little bit more consistency, and especially at the All-Star break, that post period, he really started to hit his stride. So seeing him have his confidence back and go into the hole was fantastic, and just being able to use that depth to their advantage on the wing with Jalen, Jason, Gordon Hayward, and Marcus Morris, like those 4 guys, that's the great thing about them is you have 4 guys who can give it to you any given night. So as long as you have consistent play out of Al Horford, which he has been everything, for them consistently, and Kyrie Irving, like they have an answer for almost everything. I feel like it's just next man up, in that mentality.
For me, the thing I wonder is this first series, and of course, like Kyrie's been good, and the Celtics overall have been good. Obviously, they're up 3-0. But I wonder, is this more of the Celtics playing very good, or the Pacers just not being the team that they should be? Like the Vic injury they'd be a vastly different team if Oladipo was out there. So I wonder if it's like the Celtics are just beating down a wounded Pacer team that is not matched for the Celtics. And that's why, for me, I'm looking forward to the next round, Celtics-Bucks. And for me, I feel like the Celtics, that is going to be their toughest series. If they win that series, they're going to be in the finals. If not, obviously, they'll lose in that one. But it's like one of those 2 teams, the Bucks or the Celtics.
That's where you got your money?
Winner of that series is going to the finals out of the East. Because I think, looking at the Celtics, the Raptors, kind of questionable, but like if they go up against Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals, there's no doubt in my mind the Celtics team can beat Philly. Sorry, Jake.
I agree with that. If whoever wins that Celtics-Bucks, I agree with you, Ricky, on that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for the Celtics is just finding that consistency. And if they do find it, I mean, we talked about this early on in the season. I mean, they have all the talent. They have all the depth. And I think the biggest thing that I've just loved so far is just Jason Tatum's kind of play in the playoffs so far. And he has risen. He was a guy that wasn't super consistent throughout the season this year, but he has taken that step to become even better. And so far in the playoffs, this year he was going 15.7 points per game, 6 boards a night, 2.1 assists on 45, 37, and then 85 shooting. And then so far this year through the 3 games, and it has been 3 games, 19.7 points, 4.7 boards, 1.3 assists, but then 53% from the field, 58% from 3, and then a measly 40% from the free throw line. But he's taken 5, so that's a little bit less to worry about. But defensively, he's also been fantastic. So you're seeing step up in players, which is something that I think it's kind of bullshit when you see guys like kind of turn it on for the playoffs. But you'd rather have them turn on for the playoffs than like a game 62 against the Suns.
You have that next gear in your game.
Mm-hmm. And Tatum so far has shown that. I mean, last year he averaged 18 and a half in the playoffs last year for the Celtics, and now so far he's taken that up even a notch further. So having the Celtics have that, having a leader in Kyrie, at least on the floor, I don't know if he's a leader off the floor, but at least on the floor being a leader out there is huge. And then Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, a guy who's very a veteran-heavy guy there, and then just great depth with Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, and then even when they get Marcus Smart back too, that's going to be huge as well. So I feel like with Brad Stevens being the coach, he puts them in the right spot, and the talent just needs to win out. And this is a team that they're going up against in Indiana that isn't that talented. They're just very well coached, and they're very good guys, very good players. There's no star on that team because Victor Oladipo's hurt. So I think this was a perfect first-round matchup for them because they do have the talent. They're being put in the right spots to win, and now they're kind of gaining that confidence to go up against a tough team like Milwaukee in the next round.
Well, and that's the question I want to shoot towards you, Eric, is let's say it is Boston and Milwaukee in the second round. As a Celtic fan, what are you thinking coming into that series? Is it going to be tough and going to be a Celtic win? Or are the Bucks, in your mind, because they're the number 1 seed, the favorite to win that series against the Celtics?
If you look at any analytics, I mean, the Bucks had one of the best statistical seasons ever. I mean, I kind of equate it, in the late 80s when we would be going up against Jordan. Like, I don't know how you stop Giannis. You know what I mean? And so if we can push it to 7, I think we got a shot. But I kind of have a feeling we're going to be out in about 6. Bucks and 6.
And that's the thing I'm kind of thinking about is Giannis in every game against the Celtics this year averaged 30 points per game. So it's like Giannis is going to get his. You're not going to stop him. The Marcus Smart injury might come to bite you guys in that series because, I mean, he's a really good defender. To me, the most important thing, and this is actually going to be beneficial to Boston if he's not able to come back on time, Malcolm Brogdon. If Brogdon plays from day one, I side with the Bucks. If he doesn't and misses some games and the Celtics could steal one, then maybe I lean Boston's way to upset Milwaukee.
Well, one thing I want to ask you then, Eric, is if you're saying Bucks and 6, I want to kind of wonder. I wonder like where your confidence level is, I guess, because we talked about Boston's success so far throughout the postseasons, starting with the Red Sox. It was easier to have, I'm guessing, confidence in them because they had 108 wins. Were the top winner, most wins in the MLB last year. And then you look at the Patriots, just the constant success for them. What's the reason you don't really have the confidence in the Celtics? Is it just the lack of consistency? Is it the lack of talent? You think? Is it the lack of cohesion? We all sometimes play some bets or play some DraftKings, right? And if I had some wagering money, I would have put a bunch of money on the Bucks to win the championship. I mean, statistically, they've been so good this year. It's actually my confidence in the Bucks more than my lack of confidence in the Celtics. I think that, to me, they're far favorite, even over Golden State and Houston. Like, if I had to put my money down, a month ago, even, and then still today, it would be on the Bucks to win the championship. More confidence in them than lack in my Celtics.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fair. I think they blew out so many teams throughout the year. They've just got the track record this season. Like you said, you can only hope to contain Giannis. You can't really stop that man. I do think that having, the early success in the series against the Pacers means a whole lot more for a team like the Celtics than the Bucks doing what they're doing to the Detroit Pistons, which is hilarious. But the Celtics, like watching Kyrie hit that next level in Game 3 where he put up, 37 points. Like he had that confidence. He wanted the ball in his hands. He was going to the hole. That's exactly what you want. You want Kyrie in that state of mind because my fear for the Celtics team is if they go out the gates and stumble against the Bucks, what that first loss will do to that team, that's what will set the precedent for the rest of the series. If they can, come together as a team like we haven't seen a ton this season, they could absolutely get a roll back and try to take out the Bucks. But if they react with infighting, if Kyrie goes off, if he says something that starts up shit, like that's the flaming dumpster that is the Celtics season right there at that point. It's just it's on the edge,
If the Celtics, they have the talent. If they go in and steal one and then they end up getting past the Bucks, that's why I, jumped up and down and agreed with Ricky when I said, if they get through the Bucks, they're going to easily get by the Sixers on the way to the finals.
Yeah, you guys have the Sixers numbers for years.
Yeah.
No, and do you think the Raptors are a different matchup, though?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Siakam, that development came out of nowhere. That's crazy.
For sure.
One question that's circling through my mind, and it's kind of like hearing Dave talk about Kyrie, and this is kind of succeeding this year, of like moving on past this year. Kyrie either this year or let's say he stays in Boston and he's here for multiple years. Do you think the Celtics can be a finals champion with Kyrie on that team? Or are you almost like, you know what, if we don't win it this year, I'm not upset if Kyrie walks because I'm not sure if we're going to win with Kyrie because of that infighting that might happen with a personality like Kyrie Irving?
I think it all depends on what we do with that draft capital, right? I mean, we have, depending on that Memphis pick, I mean, we can end up with 4 first-round picks. I mean, we have 3 100% now. And so if we can flip those for Anthony Davis, if we can flip those for, another tier 1 level, then yeah. If not, then I would kind of look to go down that road that you said with Kyrie and flip him for something, or kind of move on from him and let him go to New York. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't think he has that killer mentality.
Oh,
right?
okay. You think Jason Tatum's the guy then to put the weight on his shoulders moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, I almost even tried to make that argument that, and I heard you guys are going to do it, that, Ja Morant should be picked over Zion. I mean, Ja has that killer mentality. You know what I mean? Does Zion love playing basketball? Yeah, but does he have that kind of killerness?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean, especially from his position. So it's hard to take over games when the ball's not always in your hands like it would be for a Ja Morant.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to get in, though, one draft pick that I am way higher on than most people is Tyler Hero. I would pick him 5th or 6th. I think he's going to be really, really good.
Really, I mean, it's interesting
the third
because
segment where we bring up Tyler Hero.
Yeah, it is.
Boys getting love.
We had John on a little bit earlier. He's going to be on later, at least podcast wise. But he actually had the Celtics taking Hero with that 14th pick.
I love that.
So he has you guys. What do you like about him? At least that you have him going 6. So if you're saying that Memphis pick translates, let's say it becomes the 9th pick, you'd be fine with them taking Tyler Hero there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the reason is, you ever watch like some of his high school highlights where he was getting taunted that he was overrated, and like his reaction to it?
Yeah.
It meant that if you guys have seen those videos, you know what I mean. It's he's got that same kind of killerness to him. I would take him probably 5th, 6th, maybe 5th in the draft.
Yeah, no, there's something about that attitude to just it's not quite as bad as the Reggie Miller choke thing right back at Spike Lee, but it kind of gives you that same like warm feeling. It's like, he just told you off a little bit, gave you that few.
I will say it's probably a little bit easier to do that in high school than it is like, college or then the NBA. But hey, I mean, one thing again that we said, I mean, Brad Stevens puts his guys into good positions to succeed, and Tyler Hero has shown that he does have that skill to be a guy that can put up points, and I think one thing that would really help him is the fact that he has a guy in Jason Tatum who can handle the ball and can dish the ball around as a forward. Al Horford's a great big man when it comes to passing, and I think a big thing is just getting him a little bit of space. And if you can already give him space, he can create enough space to be dangerous. So I think him on the Celtics is definitely a very interesting fit. And I think that's one thing that's kind of holding them back too, is because yes, they have Kyrie, yes, they have Jason Tatum, but I don't really feel like they have that guy that they can go to outside of Kyrie and Tatum, to hit a big shot. And I don't think that really kind of exists for them, because if you are going up against a team, let's say like the Milwaukee Bucks, where they have Eric Bledsoe who can go up against Kyrie and take him out. You have a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo who can go up against Jason Tatum and take him out. Who's going to be that next guy that steps up for Boston? That's the biggest question I have for them. Is yes, they have a lot of depth where they can provide a lot of different looks lineup-wise, but who are going to be the guys that can rise up and score for them? And I think that was interesting that you also brought up Siakam as well for the Raptors, because you have Kawhi who can shut down.
Their entire team can shut down is the problem.
Jason
the Raptors
Tatum.
Are just like, I heard you like your defense with some more defense on top of defense, then some additional defense with a side of defense.
My thing is, like, you need another guard, and I don't know if they have that other guard unless it's Terry Rozier, but Terry Rozier might not even be on the team next year.
Yeah.
So that's things where you look at the Celtics, and there are different flaws to this team that do stand out. But I think when we're going back to the Celtics and about the trust that we can put into them, I think that they're probably the team I could probably trust the second most, just because they have been to the Eastern Conference Finals, and this is to win the East. They have been to the Eastern Conference Finals twice now. I put them behind the Bucks, and you look at the Raptors. I don't really trust them just because of what Kyle Lowry does and doesn't do, and that's just he's not consistent at all when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you need your second best player to step up, and I think Tatum has been stepping up for the Celtics. I think Irving has stepped up for him, and even though he might be going to New York, he has been putting a lot into it. And I know you're saying that you're not a huge fan of him taking over games, but I've seen it before, and he has risen to the occasion. And you got to look back at the Game 7 against Golden State 2 years ago, whatever it was, when they won the finals.
Taking
3 years
big
ago.
shots.
Yeah, took a big shot, hit the game winner for them. So I
think you could take over games. Him as your number one winning championships. It's kind of
that is a different question. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's there because I think he's your number one, but it's a different number one because you still have so many guys around there that can be good, solid 2s and 3s. I think Tatum's a solid 2. I think Horford's a solid 3. I think Gordon Hayward, when he's fully healthy, he's a solid 3 as well. So the fact that they have so many guys that can be a part of like those nucleuses. I'm not saying Hayward's there yet, but like when Hayward's fully healthy and scoring,
no, that's
he's
what I'm saying.
A great 3. So
are you putting him you're putting Tatum and his production and Horford and his production above where you think Gordon Hayward would be?
I would
That's
say
my question.
Horford and Hayward on the same level.
Okay.
When they're both fully healthy, because Hayward hasn't been healthy and hasn't been consistent. Neither is Horford this year. Horford's kind of taking a step back, but when he's fully on, he's a great 3, and when Hayward's on, he's a great 3. And I think that's one thing that these teams don't have is that the Bucks have Bledsoe, they have Giannis, they have Middleton. That's their big 3, and there's no one really coming in and out of that. The Raptors, they have Lowry, they have Siakam, they have Kawhi. That's their big 3, and no one's really coming in and out of that. You look at the 76ers, they kind of have that ability like the Celtics do where they have Simmons, they have Embiid, they have Butler, but Tobias Harris has risen up to the occasion before. JJ Redick has risen up to the occasion before. I think the Celtics, you look at them, they have the ability to add those guys. And Jaylen Brown, I think defensively can even add that to be a big 3 as well. I think that he provides so much defensively that it can show. He hasn't shown that a ton this year, but I think that's one thing the Celtics do have, and I think that's the reason why I put them second when it comes to trusting it. It's just the fact that they have to play the Bucks in the second round.
Yeah.
That's tough. If they're going up against the 76ers in the third round, in the second round, and then going up against the Bucks in the third round, that would give me a lot more confidence in going up against them, because you just have to win 4. You just have to win 4 games. You don't have to go up and then look to another round or another 2 rounds after that to get to the finals. So I think the Celtics are a team that they need some help, at least when it comes to scoring, but they do have so much talent there that they can really fill out and give teams problems. And again, that's just a credit to their depth and the way that Brad Stevens uses them.
Yeah, I think it's always been a fact of they just suck at rebounding, and like, not to attack Al Horford, but like he's not the best rebounder, and I like the extremely short minutes they've given to their biggest talent. Daniel obviously has been their bruiser this year, but like I wonder if that's what's going to kill them against the Bucks. Like that's a team where Giannis is so aggressive in the paint. Eric Bledsoe absolutely goes for offensive rebounds aggressively. They have such a tenacious attacking team that I think that's probably what's going to do them in.
Yeah, with me, it's just I'm looking at the Boston Celtics, and it's just, do they have the heart of the champion in them? Yes. It's just, will they get there? Mm-hmm. And that's the big question. Can they get over Mount Giannis is my biggest thing.
Well, let's throw the final question out there. Mm-hmm. Can they? So what are your thoughts right now? Not even first round finish, but what do you think if they're going up against the Bucks? What would that look like, Ricky?
I think it depends on Malcolm Brogdon and how he looks coming back. If he comes back and he's 100% healthy, I'm going to agree with what Eric said earlier, Bucks and 6.
Got that 50-40-90 kids.
If he's 50-50, then I see it going to 7, and the Celtics might be able to squeak it out, but I'd still lean with the Bucks. If Malcolm Brogdon is not even near 50% coming back, I'm going to go Celtics in 6 or 7. Wow. Malcolm Brogdon is the key for me whether or not the Bucks win, because Giannis is going to get his. Eric Bledsoe's going to do good. I mean, one of the games like Thon Maker and Tony Snell were getting
Thon
points.
Maker isn't even on the team anymore.
And that's what I'm saying. He's not there. Malcolm Brogdon was a consistent piece of he did well in every single game against Boston. Now, Marcus Smart not being there, that might play into it, but Malcolm Brogdon's the key. If he's healthy, Bucks in 6.
I'm probably going with the Bucks in 6 as well, looking forward. It's just Chris Middleton had such a massive series against them in a losing effort last year. I think that he's going to have the same keys to success again this year, so I think just as a team, they're just incredibly well-rounded. And, yeah, Giannis, what you going to do?
I'm going to go and say the Celtics in 7 because I think the Bucks haven't gotten enough. Test. I mean, like, you look at it, they're going up against the Pistons. It hasn't been close. 121, 86, 120, 99.
Hey, the Pistons led at halftime a game, too.
That did happen before they...
And then they blew them out by 21. So I think the fact that they're not going up against tough competition will honestly hurt them. And, yes, they're going to get healthier. They're going to add Brogdon. But I'll take the Celtics in 7. Just because I think while they are going to sweep the Pacers, or at least close to sweeping the Pacers, they have been close games. They have been hard-fought games. And
if they collapse the Pacers series, though, if they go from 3-0 to losing 4-3...
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
On me, Ricky Bobby.
Teams never blown a 3-0 lead in the NBA playoffs. But I think the thing with that, though, is just I think the Celtics can not shut down Giannis, but shut down everybody else. And I think that's the biggest thing for them. And they could probably even slow down Giannis just a little bit. If not, though, I don't think it's going to be a huge killer because I think they can slow down everybody else on that team. And that's going to be so huge for them because they can score in different ways. I just don't know if they have that go-to score at the end when teams are really focusing in and closing in on them. But in the first half, I think this team could really put up points with the multiple looks they can throw out there. Eric, I will go to you, though, and ask, you have Bucks in 6. What ways can the Celtics beat the Bucks?
I mean, I think if Gordon steals the game, I think that's how I could see them not even squeaking. I think they could flip it to winning it, in, like you said, in 7 or 6, and it not being that tight. I think that paying $30 million to someone that was shooting 30% or 35% was killing us earlier in the year. I think Dave hit it right on the head. I mean, once he started shooting 45%, then that's 2 or 3 points a game. My concern about the Bucks is their points per game differential was almost double what ours was. I think it was around like 8.9 or something like that. Everybody else was in the 4 to 5 range if they were good. But I think if Gordon steals a game, then we can win it in 7.
Yes, I think that is something big that the Bucks do have this crazy point differential throughout the regular season, but I think it's just something, now it's the playoffs and everything. I think you can kind of throw out everything from the regular season. It kind of gives you a baseline, but I mean, things change when you hit that regular season, and I think you can see that from the Patriots. Going in, it wasn't going to be a team that people were going to pick to win the Super Bowl. Like Tom Brady's too old. This defense isn't good enough. I don't care, Ricky. And everybody doubts him. And then here we come. Yeah. Here the Patriots come. Here comes Tom Brady. And great coaching and great talent rises to the top. So
the cream always rises to the top.
We had to get our Tom Brady in. So.
We had to. Come on. You get your 6. You got to get it. I should have worn my Brady shirt. But it was fun talking to you, Eric, and we'll have you on soon as well because we got to get your band topic in as well with Ricky and Mark. We're really excited to hear that. So if you do want to listen to that topic, that's mostly going to be the May MVP podcast where Ricky, Mark, and Eric talk about the greatest bands of all time. Eric, you want to give us a little bit of a sneak peek at all? You want to give us maybe throw out a band you're thinking about?
I mean, to me, it would be a tie, right? It's either going to be the Grateful Dead or Bob Dylan. I mean, to me, there were 2 prophets.
I love it.
I think I just watched something about Bob Dylan where people were making fun of him. Did you see the thing about him with cell phones? And he was like, we can either pose or we can either play.
No.
Yeah, he was being an old man, being mad at people taking out their cell phones and taking a picture of Bob Dylan. I mean, you're seeing Bob Dylan, so I mean, you gotta like at least take a picture and be like, hey, wow, I'm seeing Bob Dylan. This is awesome. But Dylan's definitely up there for me. I don't know about the Grateful Dead. I never got into the Deadhead stuff, but I'm definitely interested to hear the conversation that you and Ricky and Mark will have, and we're appreciate that you're finally able to get on the podcast, and we'll be able to talk to you next month.
Have a great one.
You too. But let's move into Wet Boys. We want to thank Eric for being on the podcast, and we'll be moving in soon to John and Z's topics as well. Unfortunately, we didn't have the mailbag yet for the NBA draft. We weren't able to do that this week, but we will have a mock draft next week, and hopefully we'll be able to get that in the week of May. So don't forget to comment next week on our NBA mock stuff. But let's move into the first week of Wet Boys. For the playoffs, we are going to be talking about the dampest of dudes, the moistest of men, the soggiest of shooters. These are the Wet Boys for the week. These are guys that absolutely popped off, had historic performances, had crazy stat lines, had shocking shocking upsets as well to go along with it. And weirdly enough, the most shocking, the biggest upset wasn't even mentioned. So I blame you guys for not picking one of the Clippers.
What?
No.
I called mine first.
Could care less. I like my guy.
My guy had a historically fantastic performance.
The Clippers came back from 31 points
against
your guy.
That's cool. That's cool.
Your guy choked again. Your guy choked 3-1 again.
Not really.
Yeah, he did.
Quite.
Anyways, give us yours, Ricky.
Well, before I give mine, the thing I do want to say is don't want to throw shade at you, Sean, but I almost, I was like this close from Shane McMahonning it just now and saying, you know what, we got to redo that intro because you're not as fired up as you usually are for the soggiest of shooters, the dampest of dudes. I need some more energy, and my guy giving some energy today, if we were doing this segment tomorrow, probably wouldn't be a wet boy because right now, during their game 4, he's not playing that well, but game 3, he balled out, and that is Derek White of the San Antonio Spurs. Didn't even know. Many people probably were like, Derek White, who? Who's that? Coming into these playoffs, the casual fans, but he balled out, pulling the Spurs to a 2-1 series lead before the Nuggets today, probably going to bring it back to 2-2, but that's happening now, not coming in before this. So Derek White getting the love, wet boy of the week.
And I will say, the guy that would be getting the wet boy in that series is Nikola Jokic, who's 9 of 20 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, 8 of 8 from the free throw line, 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. And he's closing in
not even honorable mention.
He's closing in on keeping his triple-double average for his career playoff game. So I just want to throw that out there. Shout out the best player in that series, Nikola Jokic.
But is he?
He is the best player in that series. I don't think you would disagree.
Was he the one who had a legendary comeback on his own back that won them a game? No, that wasn't him.
That was Jamal Murray.
I'm just saying when you have to get
carried,
when you have to get carried by the man who couldn't hit a shot in the first half and then just dumpsters a team in the second half. I'm just tossed out there. I got a question.
Your guy blew a 31 fucking point lead. Give yourself your fucking bum.
It's hard to keep engaged in a game when you blow teams out in the first half. Like I'll be honest, it's like I don't give a shit. That was sort of the mentality. And can you blame Steph Curry? The man is bored. He needs competition. And I can't once you turn it off for the night, it's off.
Shooting almost 60% from 3.
Dude, yeah. Thank you. 8 of 12 in the first game, 5 of 11 in the second game, 4 of 6 in the third game. We're talking unprecedented levels of shooting in the playoffs. This man can't fucking miss. It's incredible. Played 20 minutes in his last game, 21 points. Just he's fire.
He's the good Curry, right?
He's the good Curry.
I will say,
I can't help the fact that he's just incredible and he's bored.
I will say he does have a current offensive rating of 140.
I hear that's the high numbers are the good ones, right, guys? You guys can you back me on that? Confirm that point?
No, 140 is pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty damn insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I will just say that it's pretty pathetic. They blew a 31-point lead to the fucking Clippers.
Again, when you turn it off, you can't turn it back on again.
That's kind of pathetic though that you blew a 31-point lead to the Clippers.
And then you just dumpster them in the other game.
There's no all-star on that team.
Yeah, I'm going to give respect to Lou Will, man.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah, I'm saying someone should have gave that respect to him. I didn't. I gave it to Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard, 30 points per game, 5 assists, 4 boards, 46% from the field, 43% from 3. Mostly this is just because we disrespected him early in the season. None of us had him going to the playoffs, and we finally didn't wise up, and none of us picked him, I think, against the Thunder. We all picked against him as well for the Thunder to move on. And
I did not expect them to be
it's kind of hard
we
when
lost
you
our
haven't
third
won a
best
playoff
player.
team in, 2 years before this?
Yeah. It's like they lost their third best player. We're like, what about their low post presence? Enes Kanter's going to get roasted. And then they're just like having the best playoff series. So that series is incredibly fun.
I didn't expect Paul George to go 1 of 10 from 3 in game 1.
Yeah, no, it's that series is absolute fire. I love it.
And I think the thing that I just love for Dame is the fact that he's hitting big shots. He scored 25 in the third quarter in that. I think in one of those games, I forget whether it was the second game or the third game. But he's been fantastic.
Just so confident from 3, and I mean deep 3. He's like 4 feet behind the 3-point line. He's like, oh, you're not like a foot in my face. I'm just gonna shoot it in your face.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't win this series, the fact that he's won this many games
without a redemption arc.
Yeah, without Nurkic, it made up for his last post game season or his last post game year against the Pelicans. Yeah, it did. I mean, he didn't show up for those 4 games, and now he's showing up for these 3 games. So if he shows up for another 4 games, I think his sons are.
He's beating up one of the worst defensive fronts of Russell Westbrook coverage.
Don't care. Still doing it. The fact that Steph Curry does have 140 offense rating, that's great, but, he still blew a 31-point lead.
Fair enough.
So, those are our playoff wet boys. Ricky's going with Derek White. Who
Wow,
cares?
you already forgot.
Very
Boring.
forgettable.
You're going, very forgettable.
I'm going with Steph,
you're
the
going
Skyfucker Curry.
And I'm going Dame Lillard.
I always get that one.
First one for
right.
Derek White, both regular season and postseason. This is multiple for Steph Curry, and I think this is another one for Dame. I think this is probably his second one. I don't think Dame's had too many throughout his career, but it has been a fun time watching these guys. So we'll see what happens next week. Steph Curry, though, moving closer to, this is a good sign because he's going to move on to the next round.
He gets a week 1 wet boy. There's a chance if he gets one every single week, he could be our champ.
Yeah.
So, man,
I'm excited.
I was just going to look up Damian Lillard and see if he has one. Did not have one in the last regular season. Definitely did not want to have one in the playoffs. He had 2 in 2017, 2018. So this is now his 3rd. So shout out Damian Lillard, shout out Derek White, and shout out Steph Curry. I guess we could do Steph's too over here as well before we get to John's.
I can tell you with confidence that Derek White has not had a wet boy.
Steph had 2 in 2017, then he had 4 this year, so that's 6, and then he had 2 in the playoffs, so that's 8. So still behind James Harden.
By a lot.
That's going to do it, though, for Wet Boys. And we have a great segment coming up now with John, our patron. If you do want to become a patron, check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, shout out to Kyle. We gave him one last week as well, but let's give him another one. We don't have fantasy this week because Kyle won it. So shout out to Kyle.
Yep.
He got his prize. They didn't have the Starberries in his size, so we
I think he's happy with the Amazon gift card.
I was just going to say we found a better prize for him to make up for it, but Ricky's just dropping what we gave him. So there you go. But shout out to Kyle for winning the league, and hopefully we'll bring that back next year. But let's move now into our Patreon segment where we're going to welcome in our patron, John. And John, welcome back to the podcast. I think you brought a great topic to the floor for us. You're going to have us make us do player comparisons off of our last mock. So if you haven't seen our last mock, definitely go check that out. And John, you're basing this off your own mock as well. If you want to go in, we're going to do 5 player comparisons each off our mock drafts and the fit for that team as well, and how it will fit with that team. So if you want to jump in with it, you have the man in Zion Williamson. Which player does he remind you of, and why does he fit for the team you have him drafting?
Well, let me hold on. There's a lot of comparisons to Charles Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of comparisons to Larry Johnson. I think those are okay. I think that it doesn't really include Zion. One of Zion's biggest attributes. His 2 biggest attributes are weak side defense and open court fast break. He has guard skills and open court. Barkley's averaged that. Johnson was averaged that, but I think he has guard skills. But as far as his best attribute is weak side defense, especially blocking shots. To me, he reminds me of Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin was a beast in college for Cincinnati, basically blocking every shot, protecting the rim, and he was quick to cross the lane and block on the weak side. I think that a lot of people miss that as far as Zion's attribute. He's huge, but he's size of Dwayne Blair, but I think offensively, I would like him to develop to kind of like a Boris Diaw, kind of like a playmaking power forward. I think he has that skill because, when he was in 8th grade, he was a point guard, but he grew in high school, so became a forward. But I'm going to go with Kenyon Martin as my player comparison. But I hope that he's going to develop defensively, but I hope that he gets recognized for as good defender he may be. He may not. See, Draymond Green gets recognized as a great defender because he guards centers. Mm-hmm. Zion may never do that, but they have to recognize his ability on defense and not just the highlight dunks, which are great.
I love you bringing up Dwayne Blair. He was one of my favorite college players of all time. Too bad he had 0 knees because he would have been fun in the pros if he was able to last a little bit longer. But yeah, Zion's a tough one to get a true pro comp with just because he brings so many different aspects to his game, like you're mentioning the weak side defense. I mean, his ability to just rise above the rim and block shots, and then also just closing out from the opposite block to the other corner. We saw that a couple times.
The 3-point blocks were kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean he's incredible when it comes to his defensive ability.
Hunter for Virginia.
Yeah,
yeah, I think
he
that
blocked it 11.5 feet off.
I think that was what I was talking about.
Little excessive.
Yeah, it was insane. But his offensive playmaking is something special. He does have great court vision, and there's plenty of times. I think it was even the first game against Kentucky. He grabbed a defensive board and then threw up a pass to RJ from like half court and just threaded a needle, and it was gorgeous. So he does bring a lot to the table. I wasn't able to watch Barkley. So what's the biggest reason he's not like Barkley? Because I think people want to compare him to a player who would be MVP caliber, but Ja Morant wasn't MVP caliber. Same with Boris Diaw. So if he's not Barkley, what are the reasons he's not Barkley?
Barkley he's an old school power forward. He has feet like roots. They teach you post up moves. You have to be grounded to the ground and not moved off the block and push your defender back under the basket. Zion doesn't need to do that. He has more athleticism. It's not so much that he probably can't do what Barkley does. He just is so athletic. He's not limited to the old school post moves.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think some people are saying that back in the day, Charles, before he got bigger, especially like Philadelphia, Barkley was a similar athlete to Barkley. Again, I don't know these things because I wasn't watching basketball back then. But it's something that it is tough for me to compare Zion to, because you think of the great players and power forwards really reigned back in the day, and now he is just a new breed, because he's not really a great shooter at all. So he's not going to be like a 25-point scorer like Charles Barkley was, because he won't be able to add up those points and get those many shots to put up those types of numbers. But he is very intriguing. Let's move to the next one, and that's Ricky, RJ Barrett.
Well, the thing before RJ, I just want to throw in really quick about Zion is the reason why with the whole Charles thing is we never expected Charles Barkley to be like, man, he's going to hit from the outside. Like John was saying, traditional power forward type. I mean, I was there in the Charles days, John. I was
cut the back half of the career.
A little bit younger.
In 1990.
Yeah, but I still watched Charles Barkley.
You were 3 when he won the MVP, or like 2?
When he won the MVP, but I saw Charles Barkley. I saw Rockets Charles Barkley. Wasn't the best Charles Barkley, but I still saw Charles Barkley.
He was a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
But with Zion, I think with me, it's more of like I compare him more of like Blake Griffin, where it's that power forward who has some guard tendencies or has some skills for there, but if he can develop an outside shot, he's going to be deadly. But for me, the RJ Barrett, the guy that I'm going with, is the main comp that I look after watching their films is he reminds me a lot of Andrew Wiggins, but a better Andrew Wiggins, where it's like I look at both of them, they can drive, they can shoot. My only worry is when I was seeing the Andrew Wiggins, I was like, let me see if that's true. And I was like, I don't want it to be Andrew Wiggins because of what we've seen of him in the NBA, but I feel like the mentality that he has for scoring might make him a better version of Wiggins in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, the Wiggins one's definitely interesting because, I mean, they're both Canadian as well, so that plays into a factor. And that obviously doesn't lead to anything actually on the court. But, Duke forwards who Wiggins was Kansas. But, 6'7" forwards who were big scorers in college, both being Canadian as well. I think that the biggest thing is just if he does have that motor. It seems like RJ does have that motor. And I think even you looking at Wiggins in college, it didn't seem like he lacked a motor, really. It just came
so natural to him was the difference. I mean, I don't know if it was the lack of effort, but his play made him look effortless out there. He was able to get to the hoop so successfully, so easily. At times, it was just like, man, this kid has everything. I mean, there's a reason why he was taken so high in that draft. But, yeah, his NBA game he didn't have that next gear to shift into. So I think that aiming at...
and he wasn't playing next to RJ, or he wasn't playing next to Zion Williamson. No, Andrew Wiggins wasn't.
No, he wasn't. But, I mean, that's the thing is, I think RJ's game probably has a better chance of translating because he's, like you said, he's already played next to 2 guys who were at the top of their board coming into the class. And then he was able to facilitate. He's able to get rebounds. He can score a couple levels. Like I like the comp. I just don't know, are you going to get what you saw out of him in college, or are you going to get what we see out of Andrew Wiggins now? A very inefficient shooter who is just lacking in an all-around game standpoint.
And I think a big thing that Wiggins does is Wiggins relies too much on his athleticism, where he doesn't have that skills to actually create separation, where I think RJ has shown that time and time again that he does have that ability, at least skill-wise, to create space for himself in the paint. And then if he's able to do that on the outside and on the perimeter, that's going to lead to more success to him. I mean, the biggest thing with Wiggins is just his efficiency. I mean, he puts up numbers. He's just not efficient at all, which truly kills him.
He's like least efficient volume scorer.
Yeah, he's the. I think there was a video that just said he's the worst shooter in the NBA. But yeah, I think Wiggins definitely makes sense there, especially being a high pick. Dave, you got Ja Morant next though.
Yeah, I went bold with this one. I think I've said this one on the show a couple times before. He's a bigger, worse shooting version of Allen Iverson. His game is electric, ball in his hands. He can get to the hoop at will. He's crafty in the air. He's able to pull in multiple defenders, but he's so unselfish. On the other hand, where I think that's a part of AI's game where he had moments, but his prerogative was always to go attack. And he had incredible handles, small guard, obviously. But I think Ja Morant has a lot of the similarities in that area, but he just has a much worse shooting form. And I still believe that his top end is still incredible as a scorer, as a driver to the basket. So yeah, I'm landing on AI-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, John, I want to go to you since you are in the Philly area. How do you? At least, what do you think of the AI-ish comparison for Ja Morant?
I don't think it's a good comparison. One, I think Ja Morant is more talented than AI. But I think AI makes up and supersedes almost any NBA player over Hart. I think that the close comparison between R.J. Barrett and Allen Iverson. But as far as Iverson never really wanted to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Ja Morant has some point guard instincts, and he has better vision than Allen Iverson. But they're both athletic. Ja Morant's a little taller, But I hope Ja Morant is as good as Allen Iverson was.
Yeah, I don't see Ja ever putting up near 30 in a season like AI did. Do you feel like he can do that, at least scoring-wise,
I mean, at this point in the NBA, most guys don't put up 30 unless their name's James Harden. I think that he's a 20 to 25 point game scorer. I don't think he's going to put up 30. No, but at the same time,
AI played shooting guard. He didn't play point guard.
He started
Eric
off as
point guard. Ja Morant, he'll play point guard in NBA.
Yeah,
lead ball handler.
Yep. I think their play style is similar. It's just he's unselfish, and I think he loves.
AI wasn't unselfish.
What?
He shot 30 shots a night. That's not unselfish.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about Ja.
Oh, yeah, but AI was selfish.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He plays like AI does, except he's unselfish. He's a worse shooter, so it depends on his facilitation. He draws in the same amount of attention from off-ball players, but instead of going for those difficult shots because he doesn't have that amazing stroke, he's able to dish out, and I think he honestly is looking to pass more. A lot of people want to give him that Rondo vibe of he's more of a guy who wants to rack up assists rather than scoring, and it's can he flip the switch and know he has to take over a game at this point. But I think that when you watch him in the air, when you watch him drive to the basket, a lot of the ways he actually gets up in the air and tries to navigate in the paint reminds me of Allen Iverson. Just he's a little bit bigger than him.
All right. I think AI is definitely one that's going to be tough just because, when you're comparing them to all-time greats, it's always tough to actually hit on those. But at least, from play style-wise, not, career-wise, I think AI is definitely an intriguing one. We're going to move to mine next. It's going to be Darius Garland on Vanderbilt. I'm looking at a couple, and it's tough to fully flesh out a comparison for him since he only played 3 games in college, 4 or 5 games in college.
Very, very small.
5 games was it, Dave?
Yeah.
He played 5 games for Vanderbilt this year. He put up 16.2 points per game, 2.6 assists, 3.8 boards, shooting 53.7% from the field, 47.8% from 3, and then 75% from the line. There's a lot of different ways you can go at this. Some people are looking at it, he's like Kyrie, where, he got injured and he's a scoring guard. He's smaller, he's quicker, he's got great handles. But I don't think he's that good of a driver. Kyrie's so fantastic going to the bucket. I don't think he's that type of player. And Kyrie's handles are on a next level than Darius Garland. Some people want to say Reggie Jackson as well. Very similar stat-wise to these two players, at least their freshman years. But I'm going to ultimately go with Dame Lillard, but Dame Lillard's peak. You look at Darius Garland's shot and his release time, and it's very similar to Damian Lillard, and that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is Darius Garland's ability to shoot and the quickness of his shot. And I think looking at those two players, kind of similar builds. Garland's a little bit smaller. Dame's like 6'3", Garland's like 6'2", 6'1". Some people have him listed at 6'3". He's much smaller than that, Garland. Yeah. He's smaller than Dame Lillard, but at least when you're looking at the shot, you're looking at the quickness of the shot, and you're looking at the ability to score. I think those really reminisce me of a young Damian Lillard. Now, I don't know if he's ever going to hit that peak that Dame has, but maybe in a lesser role, and also injuries do play a factor into Darius Garland's career. I think with all that taken into account, I think if he hits his peak, if he's healthy, and he's got an offense that's fit to him, where he's going to be able to take a ton of shots a game, like 16 to 17 a game, he will be able to put up Dame levels. Again, that's if everything plays out to his factor. But I really love his shot. He's super quick off the bounce, and he can score, and he's got great range too. So I like Damian Lillard for a Darius Garland comp, and him next to a Mike Conley or him next to a Jaren Jackson. I love the fit for him in Memphis, or I also love the fit him next to Drew Holiday.
Next to Zach LaVine.
You like him for the Bulls?
I don't see why the Bulls wouldn't pick a point guard. I don't see how the Bulls can come out of the draft without
we hate
one
playing
of the 3-point
defense.
guards.
That's what that would be if we picked him.
I don't understand.
I think
you got to move forward. You have a good young core and other 4 other positions.
I don't disagree.
He's a reach. Go get him, and they move on. Just like a quarterback in the NFL. Get your player and move on.
I think the biggest thing that would be hesitant for me is living in Chicago. I'm not a Bulls fan, but at least so many. I have to pay attention to the Bulls so much because they're always in my face. The biggest thing that would worry me for Darius Garland going to the Bulls is I think he needs those shots, and I think he'll be taking away shots too often from Markkanen and from Zach LaVine. I don't know if it's going to be a fluid offense, and that would be the biggest thing that concerns me.
They're going to pick somebody, so what's the alternative?
With me,
you saying like a Reddish would be better than the Garland as far as Bulls moving forward and trying to win going to the
I
playoffs?
would go BPA, whether you think that's a Culver, whether you think that's a Hunter, whether you think that is a Kobe White. But if you don't go
so you're
Kobe,
play a Hunter or Culver 16 minutes a game?
Let's say I go.
Because you're behind Otto Porter.
Here's the thing, though.
Hutchison.
If I go with one of those two, the thing I would think of, and this is a guy that I'm going to have a player comp for later, with the 38th pick, I'd probably shoot for Carson Edwards there. And then, boom, I've got a backup behind Chris Dunn. And if Dunn is not my answer moving forward after this year, I treat that point. I kind of learned to, I'm going to kick that can down the road and then solve it. I don't know if we bring back D-Rose. That's something that we've talked about as well. But
so
we don't need
Hunter
to take Garland there.
And you're going to hope for 30 more picks to get another player.
I mean, I don't know. If I have to trade up from 38, I can trade up from 38, but that's kind of what I look at.
If you think Chris Dunn is salvageable, that's an opinion. I mean, it's not a popular one, but it's an opinion.
And I think one thing that we have to look at is, yes, you're obviously going to be stacking up on forwards if you take Culver or Hunter, but that's still giving you depth. And a lot of these great teams, I mean, you look at Toronto, you look at Milwaukee, you look at Boston, they're built on depth. And that's what the NBA is going to. So if you have Darius Garland, if you have DeAndre Hunter or Jarrett Culver coming off the bench, who could play your 2 through 4, at least probably not the 4 for Culver, but I think Hunter could probably play the 4, at least the 3 and the 4 for Hunter, and then the 2 and the 3 for Culver. If you have that coming off your bench, that provides you so much versatility. You can move Zach LaVine to the 1 at points as well. With if you take a guy like DeAndre Hunter, it gives you so much size as well, and I think it's just going to make you so much versatile. And I think Chris Dunn can be used for one more season. And even if he doesn't play extremely well and he's not deserving of a huge contract, that does make it easier to bring him back if he does fit with this team. I think he's just dealt with a lot of health issues, but when he's out there, he's at least doing what you need the Bulls point guard to do, and that is facilitate in my mind. I don't think you need a scorer like Darius Garland. I'm not too high on the pick of Kobe White, too. I think he's too much of a scorer as well. I think Ja Morant would be the perfect one because we talked about it earlier. He's not selfish. He's very unselfish. And I think what I've seen from Garland, what I've seen from Kobe White less of, but I look at those two players and I do see the scoring instinct first. And I think Ja Morant kind of has that, or that showed at Murray State just because he needed to be the guy there, where Kobe White was on a team with Luke May, Cam Johnson, Nasir Little, he was on a very near senior heavy team, or at least upperclassman team. And Darius Garland, he was kind of also in that same, I need to be the guy, because Vanderbilt wasn't that great this year. But I look at him, I think they're too selfish of point guards, where Chris Dunn isn't selfish. He's very willing to pass the ball. He's very willing to pass up shots. Go ahead, John.
Because he can't shoot.
That's true, and he's not a perfect point guard, but I feel that Darius Garland is too much of a shooter.
On offense, what are Chris Dunn's strengths?
Offense, I think he is at least a smart player, so I think he turns the ball over less, and he gets the ball at least into the hands of a guy like Lauri Markkanen, of a guy like Zach LaVine, and like Otto Porter, and he at least moves the ball and keeps it going. He's not going to at least hurt you turning the ball over. He's not going to hurt you trying to force up bad shots. He's not going to shoot the ball, which is going to hurt you
Chris
there.
Dunn plays.
Yeah, but you're not going to see a guy who's going to be taking away shots from your best players. He's not going to be taking away shots from Zach LaVine, who you're paying 4 years, $78 million. And at least I think that would be the biggest thing for me, is you got to work this point guard into the offense, and he can't be the offense.
Okay.
All right. You're up next, John. Brandon Clark.
Brandon Clark. I got Sekou Doumbouya over Brandon Clark.
Oh, you got Sekou Doumbouya over Brandon Clark. We'll give you Sekou then.
Sekou's worthy of a top 5 pick.
Whoa.
You have him going to the Lakers.
He won't go
just
top 5 this year.
Yeah, just to
he's
put.
He's an 18-year-old. He's from Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
He moved to France as a kid, and he plays for one of the French basketball leagues there. He's been a couple years a pro. He's a 6'9", and possibly grown to 6'10". Big, wide-bodied, long player. He has a lot of athleticism, very good energy. He has confidence. His three-point shot, not very good of a percentage, but he's 18, could develop that. He has a good skill, good mechanism as far as shooting. He can turn around and post up. There's not much that he can do. So as far as length, well, if a team pushes him towards the power forward position, I see him being a lot like Donyell Marshall. Donyell played out of Connecticut. He was a good three-point shooter, but also uses length inside. If we play this more towards the 3, I don't know if he's as skilled, because this is one of my favorite college players ever, was Jamal Mashburn out of Kentucky.
Ooh.
I don't know if he has the ball handling that Jamal Mashburn does, because Jamal Mashburn was a big point guard. But, Doumbouya has a lot of energy, great confidence. He's young, has tremendous potential.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, he came on the radar at the under-18 tournament game, and it's just, there's so many questions about where he will fit in, because he hasn't been healthy for the entirety of this year. I think he had a hand injury. Thumb, yeah. Hey, we're brothers.
Ironic.
I was like, I thought it was thumb, but I didn't want to risk it. But yeah, he had a thumb injury. I know that kind of threw off his playing time and shooting. But you think that because of his potential, he's worthy of like a top 5 pick in this class, just pure upside?
Oh, I don't see a stretch 4 that has more potential than he does. He may not have the production, but he has that potential.
Okay.
All right, John. The one question I will follow up then with you is just because I see your mock and the people don't see it right now, but you have him going to the Lakers, and that's outside of your top 5. So why do you have him at least outside of your top 5? Is it just because of fit? You don't see him fitting with a team that's picking before the Lakers? Why do you have him falling to around 10 or 11?
I think it's politics. I think he's a European player. Some of these high lottery teams, there's too much risk for them to pick a European player that doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
I think as far as fit, there's not a lot of teams in the top half that will want a power forward. I mean, Zion's there. You're going to take Zion no matter what. But just as far as fit, and these other guys, they show a little more production.
But they're also a little bit older, a little bit more playing time under their feet. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm curious to get your take next time we come around to Brandon Clark on that.
Yeah, I do like the Jamal Mashburn comparison though. I love Jamal Mashburn when he was with the Hornets. Really fun player to watch, and kind of before his time too. In those last 3 seasons when he was with the Hornets, 21 points per game, 6 boards, 5 assists for a guy who was 6'8", playing small forward. So kind of the first point forward, like you were saying. They're one of the, not the first, because obviously, Magic Johnson was pretty much like a point forward. I know he played point guard, but 6'8". But at least, guys that were strictly wings. Definitely an interesting comparison there for Sekou.
What I've seen Sekou do that Jamal did a lot, he did like a soft drive to like the elbow and then turned around and backed his defender down. It's just two different like rangy skill sets that not many players can do.
Yeah. For sure. And Danielle...
That's something that Ben Simmons is doing now against smaller point guards.
Yeah, and also Danielle set the NBA record at the time for most threes in a game with the Chicago Bulls.
The thing that I just want to throw out there with Sekou, that, and this is if, in my mind, if he reaches his ceiling or if he reaches like the ideal of what we want him to be at the next level, he could be a player kind of like Giannis, and I know people are going to freak out with that, but let me explain myself. Whereas he could be a guy that many people are like, hey, could be a top 5, but was maybe drafted 11 through 14, maybe 15, and people look back 4 years later and go, God, how was he drafted so low? How did he make it out of the top 5? Like, he could be that kind of a player if he is at the top end of what we want from him in the NBA.
Well, and I think that's what that plays a lot into just Euro players in general. I mean, like Kristaps, when he was selected, people thought that was too high. Like there's
ask Knicks fans.
Yeah, I mean, and people, Luka was either he's the number 1 player or he's too slow because he's European. And there's a ton of things that just go into this. It's just that I think that Giannis was too raw. I think people kind of do look up the potential of them finally getting to an NBA weight room, them getting into an NBA culture, and how quickly they can accept that and how quickly they can grow in that. Definitely going to be interested to see what Sekou can do, though, because there have been a couple more highlights that have come out recently, and he's just looked better and better. So he's a guy that he might be rising up my board soon. Ricky, let's go to Cam Reddish.
So with Cam Reddish, this is one that are probably going to make people raise their eyebrows, but Cam Reddish supporters, I think, are going to agree with me on this one. And this is if he gets to his ceiling and gets to the absolute top end of what he can be in the NBA. I think he could be a Paul George type of player, PG-13, where he's a guy that, like, if you look at his tape before coming to Duke, and even in the games early on at Duke, the good ones that he had, he can hit from the outside, mid-range, can drive into the basket. We all know that he can play defense as well. And kind of looking at the two, I see a little Paul George in that. The only question is, can he be consistent enough at the next level? And were the struggles that we saw this year because he was playing next to RJ and Zion and could not flourish? Was it like that plant that got covered up by the big tall trees and didn't get enough sun to grow, and that's the reason why we saw what we did? Or is it because there are some problems there and he's going to be like the other comps that I've seen where there are some that said like Ben McLemore, and I was like, ugh, that's one where coming out there were people high on Ben McLemore.
Ben had a better shot, I'm just saying.
But, I mean, you look at how he panned out in the league and it wasn't that great. So with me, I'm hoping more for that ceiling, and PG-13 is who I'm going with for Cam.
It's lofty.
Yeah, I mean, it's lofty. I mean, again, it's like the body that he needs to build into, and I think that Paul George is very smooth, where I don't really see that with Cam Reddish. I don't think he's as tightened as a prospect as we wish, but we're also watching a different Paul George. We're watching a guy who's been in the league for multiple years. So that's going to be definitely something different, but I'm not huge on Cam Reddish, and one thing that Paul George did do in college was produce. And Cam Reddish did. But you were talking about Cam Reddish in high school, so definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Dave, let's move to you for your next one.
Sure. My next player up is Bol. Obviously, again, shortened season, much like Darius Garland, a guy who had insane offensive production to start the year. Obviously, the question was, is this sustainable? Probably not going to be able to sustain shooting, 50-something% from three for the season. But look, he has insane size. He has an incredible offensive touch. And I think that, the foot injury set aside, you have to look at him as a unicorn. He's in that category, and that's why it's like you can hope that he is a skinnier version of KP, basically, because KP much more physically built than he is, frame-wise. Worst case is you're looking at like an upgraded, like an Uber Spencer Hawes. No, seriously, like the worst case scenario for a healthy Bol would be
Spencer Hawes is huge, though.
It's a 7-footer who can shoot from the outside at a decent rate. I'm not comparing their frames. I'm saying from a play style similarity, like they could be used similarly. And I think that Bol just everybody wants to attack his defensive play, and I don't know that it's as bad as the comment sections or as that people are saying it is. When you watch them play at Oregon, yes, they were using zone defense. Yes, guys got past him, but it's not like he was the worst possible defender. He still went out there and had a couple blocks a game. I think that he has a lot to learn. He has a lot to grow into, and I think time will definitely improve his game. It just turns into, as he builds up muscle, as he builds up confidence in himself and his body, he's just incredibly dangerous. And I think that people want to overlook him because of that 1 foot injury. And I'm like, look at his career up to this point. He's been healthy. He's been playing basketball since he was like 4. You just have to be concerned with the fact that, yes, he's 7 feet tall, but guys come back from foot injuries, even bigger guys. It's okay.
Yeah, John, I want to go to you on this because you do. I'm looking at your mock draft. You have him going 6 Bol to the Wizards. Do you agree with Dave's comparison of a thinner KP or a guy who could be used like Spencer Hawes? Do you see that type of player, or do you see something more? What are you seeing, Bol?
No, I think it's good. I think players like Bol and Zion, they're like one-off players, so they're hard to compare to. Mm-hmm. But I like the comparison. Spencer Hawes had a little more defensive IQ, but I think with Bol, a lot of people they just don't trust. They lack hope. Bol, he may be a Gauskas, he may be a Greg Oden, and have a Sam Bowie have a short career because of injuries. But outside of that, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're 7'3", you shoot like a 2 guard. You block shots, but you have the width of a man who's like 5'5".
Yeah.
He's the player who he is. You gotta allow him to be who he is. He's going to be he's going to be a center. He's going to draw attention to the 3-point line, which is going to take the defending center outside, which will leave some open driving lanes, which is great. I think that there's a chance that it's a team who needs a center. I have him going to the Wizards just because look at the Wizards.
Yes.
Opening night, they had talent, but they just didn't have any cohesiveness, any chemistry. They had John Wall, which is a bad apple to say the least. I don't want to get on hating on John Wall, but for me, the Wizards need something. They need something exotic. They have a lot of standard players. If they have like a Bol to mix in with Thomas Bryant, I think that they can move forward with that.
I'm on the same exact page as you. I think that he is he's a potential game changer because it's you build an identity around a player with a lot of these great teams. You look at the Bucks. You built around Giannis. Like he's a special player. He has the upper end talent, and I don't know that Bol will have that. But at the same time, the fact that he has the potential that puts him in that range on its own means he should be picked in that area.
Well, and John, I want to ask you too, because you are a viewer. Did Dave talk you into Bol, or did you have this thought independent of Dave's mentioning of Bol to the Wizards?
No, just watching the Warriors and look what Steph Curry does to defenses. He just gives open looks to other players. Instead of a guard being at the key, now you have the center at the key. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I want to add to what you said, Sean, is like it's easy to build around a player who's like a ball dominant player or a defender, like a center. But like Bol, for me, he's like an add-on piece because he won't have the ball in his hands a lot. They're going to have to kick out to him and just make shots, and he'll just have to develop as a defender. But no, Dave didn't sell him. The release of his 3-point shot sold me.
Give me some credit, John. I laid out a great argument. What was that, about 2 months ago?
You have to look at my old mocks. I've always had Bol pretty high.
All right.
So you stole from John, is what he's saying.
Nah.
The one thing I will say, though, is Bol definitely doesn't shoot like a 2-guard. Yes, percentage-wise he doesn't, but I don't know any 2-guards that can just put the ball over his head.
And make sure, ball?
Yeah, make sure that it's not going to get blocked. But yeah, I mean, his percentages are crazy, and offensively, again, his potential's there. I'm just worried about him playing defense and his ability to be healthy.
Yeah, that's why you make him an exotic player. You have Thomas Bryant, play him 20 minutes and Bol 16 minutes. You don't want if you're building your team and Bol, you're expecting 30 minutes out of Bol.
Year one,
that's not a good long-term plan.
I agree with you. I think you look at how well Joel Embiid built up, and I know he had the injuries year after year that kind of kept him off the court, but you look at how physically, and I know they're not going to be anywhere close physically, but the difference, the change over a couple of years will take I think you have to look towards the same thing with Bol. That he will have time to develop his game and develop his body. You don't know what? You don't think that he's going to put on any weight or muscle in the next 3 years? Like, that's all I'm saying. I think that people are so worried about his slender frame that they're discounting the fact that he's still 19. Like, guys don't stop growing at 19. He can develop that strength. He can develop and get more comfortable with his body.
Again, I will keep bringing this up, though. His dad was also very thin.
Yes.
And you typically have similar body builds to the people you come from. So I think that's something that we can look at. And yes, typically people grow when they're 19 and they get bigger. But I think there might be something there that might limit his growing.
But to throw out there, and this is something that we saw last year with Mo Bamba, where he even talked about coming out where the dietitians and the everything that goes into the body now is vastly different than when Manute Ball was playing.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. I'm not saying that, but also
where you can do things now to take better care of your body so that maybe those
Sean,
injuries
you think he's just
going to
be by the time he's 25 still running around with string beans for arms and legs?
He might be.
It's no guarantee. Look at Nerlens Noel. Nerlens been in the league 5 years. He didn't gain but 5 pounds. He gained a lot of muscle.
Yeah, he did muscle up.
But
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, the one thing too is just they used to try to feed Bol or Manute a ton, and he just would not grow. So maybe they have better ideas of how to attack those bodies like this and make sure he builds up. But Bol's dad just could not lift weights. He was just he didn't have that body type to gain muscle.
Nobody was really lifting weights too much back in the day.
They were trying to make him because he was that small.
No, I'm just saying, as an NBA, we've progressed to the point where we're super athletes.
Sylvester Stallone, that dude was yoked. Of course that guy was in the weight room.
I mean, NBA-wise. You didn't see yoked out guys on HGH like you do now.
Larry Johnson.
Okay, so we got one out of the 600.
That. He was born like that. Bol was also born like that.
One guy who did blow up, his name is Kevin.
Kevin Johnson?
He was a power forward, 7-foot power forward for the Hawks. Get his last name. And these massive biceps.
Sean's digging.
What
Ricky's
year?
digging.
Do you remember?
Oh, of course, the 90s.
It's that's your wheelhouse.
I'll just look up 1995 Atlanta Hawks. Ken Norman?
No, that's the boxer.
I'm probably not gonna be any help here. We'll keep looking.
I'll get you.
Oh,
later.
Kevin Willis?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Kevin Willis was yoked. He played for the Raptors. I didn't know he played for the Hawks though. Let's move on though, because this kind of ties into the Wizards thing. Something you said, John, was that the Wizards have very what's it called?
They're a spread talent. The talent is spread across the position.
Yeah, and they have kind of normal players. They have typical players. They have guys that are just kind of standard players. I'm moving to PJ Washington, and the guy I'm comparing to is one of those standard players on the Wizards, is Jeff Green. I look at him. He's 6'8" forward, guy that can shoot from the outside, guy that can shoot from mid-range, a guy that can score when he has the ball in his hands, pretty decent passer, a decent defender. And I just look at him in PJ Washington, this last year, he was never consistently scoring. He would have 8 points, 3 points, then 25, 19, 19, and then 6, 8, 9, and then 29, and then 9, 11, and then 5, and then 15, and then 9 and 3, and then go on a run of double-digit points, and then go back all the way down to 9, and then 9 through 10, and then go all the way back up to 26, where Jeff Green was the same thing this year. 17 points, then 2, then 12, and then a run of double-digit points, then 4, then 2, then 8, then 6, then 7, and then 20, and then 13. So the inconsistency, and then also just their body frames and body types. I see a lot of Jeff Green in there because he's not majorly athletic, but Jeff Green's not majorly athletic, but he has times and spots where he does look super athletic out there. And there's times where Jeff Green looks like LeBron James. They were playing on the Cavs together, and there's times where it's just they kind of blend together. They look very similar. But ultimately, when you see them actually play, there's differences. So I think PJ Washington, he's kind of one of those guys that look like he might be much better than. You see him in an NBA jersey, you see him play, you see him shoot, and you feel like he might be better than what you see. But I think ultimately he's just going to be a guy that's a good starter to a very good bench player, kind of like Jeff Green. Jeff Green hasn't been able to stay fully healthy, which kind of limited his ceiling. But I think that they're very similar players, similar size, and similar play types. And I think that looking at my mock draft, I think PJ Washington would be fantastic on the Hornets. I think they kind of need that Jeff Green type. because yes, they drafted Miles Bridges, but Miles Bridges, I feel like he's kind of a boomer bust guy. I don't think really he's going to be a smooth, consistent player. I think he's going to be more of a guy that's going to either explode on the scene or just kind of wither out, kind of like Malik Monk. And I think that Jeff Green could be a guy that's just very consistent. And I think that's why, or PJ Washington can be a guy that's very consistent, just like Jeff Green. So that's going to be my comp there is Jeff Green for PJ Washington.
John, any thoughts on that one?
I think that Jeff Green has more ball handling skills. Like you compare him to LeBron. LeBron's a playmaker. I don't think that PJ Washington has much of a playmaking potential. He hasn't shown it. And I don't think he has the skill set to put the ball on the floor like Jeff Green does. The comp that I have for PJ Washington is Thaddeus Young.
I can see Thad in ways, just because you're right. He doesn't have that at least facilitating side or that playmaking side. But there are times that, like, from the wing, PJ can drive and attack, and I think that that's shown in Thad Young's game. I'm just talking.
In college, a lot of players can straight line drive, but Jeff Green has the ability to cross over and go, have to change directions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't be argumentative, but
no, it's fine.
Everyone has their differences.
It's better when people are argumentative. It's boring when we just agree.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that you're making fair points. I think Thad Young could be a good comparison too. And I also think that PJ Washington has shown the ability to grow. I mean, this is a completely different player than we saw in his freshman year, and I think there are a lot of pieces there that can show that he has the ability to grow into a different player. And a big thing too is that they were trying to play very much through their guards, Kentucky this year, and I don't think he had the ability to really have the ball in his hands and attack. Now, if he goes to the Hornets, he probably also won't have that ability as well with Kemba Walker. But if he does put in the effort and does put in the time, I feel like he does have a really good feel for the game. He is really smooth, so I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to add more to his game, at least offensively, and adding more skills to score. But I think Thad Young and Jeff Green, a blend of those two, could definitely be an interesting comparison for P.J. Washington and end up being what he can be in the NBA. But we'll move to your next one in Brandon Clark.
Brandon Clark, he's one of my shorties. There are a lot of players that I think they're going to fall in the draft. We compare them to people's mocks. I love Brandon Clark. He has great energy. He's one of the favorite players to watch because he has aggression. Not just he doesn't want to fight you, but he wants to win. He's going to bring whatever he can bring to the game to beat you. Just look at when Gonzaga played Duke and what he did to Zion. But my comparison for Brandon Clark is Jeremy Grant. One of those tweeners. I think Brandon Clark is under 6'8". Jeremy Grant's 6'8". I think Brandon Clark can't really put the ball on the floor. Jeremy Grant can't really put the ball on the floor. Jeremy Grant right now is playing like an undersized power forward for the Thunder.
Yeah.
He doesn't have much of an outside shot like Brandon Clark, but they're both tremendous shot blockers. They have great feet on defense. They can move. They're pretty instinctual on defense, get to the right place at the right time. But, that's my comparison, Jeremy Grant.
The one thing that kind of interests me with your thing is not really the comparison, because I think it's a good comp, or at least an interesting comp. I think Jeremy Grant obviously added a shot to his game this year, so that might push back people on that Jeremy Grant comparison. But before this season, Jeremy Grant was not a good 3-point shooter at all.
Yeah, you would hope that Brandon Clark does the same thing.
No, I agree with that for sure, and I think he does have a decent shot mechanics. Brandon Clark. I just don't think he's taken too many reps out there to be a dangerous 3-point shooter yet. So I think the base is there to become a good 3-point shooter. But the thing that grabbed my interest in yours was the fact that you have Brandon Clark going to the Pistons. Why do you think he's a good fit for Detroit?
I think as far as talent, he's a very efficient player. That's one thing that I think a lot of people underestimate is the importance of efficiency. Even though you have a player out there who might score 16 points, he's taken 7 shots. That's great production.
Mm-hmm.
It's great production, and I think that Brandon Clark he knows when not to shoot and knows when to shoot. That's very underrated. I think that the Pistons that had Stanley Johnson, they lost that after a trade, and Brandon Clark fulfills a wing position. I think they can benefit from a wing defender. They drafted a couple of guards in the second round last year. I think, there's room for them to develop. You obviously have Blake Griffin. You have a decent rebounding center. I just think that from the wing position, they need some help.
Yeah, I agree. I find it interesting just because when I look at the Pistons, I feel like they need spacing. So Brandon Clark, who needs to develop on the spacing, is definitely an interesting pick. A pick there. But I think something that he can definitely work on is the spacing.
No, you're right. They need spacing. My hope was that the guards developed that. They had that kid from Duke
Miami,
a couple years ago, Luke Kennard.
Yeah, Luke Kennard, and then they have Bruce Brown, I think it is. From,
Brown's been starting for him
from Miami.
A complimentary role, basically. We needed
and they have
somebody.
Another guard from a small school.
They took him in the second round, or
Creighton guy.
Or undrafted,
Something Thomas.
Yeah,
Kyrie Thomas.
Yeah,
it was one of Ricky's favorites.
I thought he was a pretty good player coming out last year.
Yeah,
Ricky loved Kyrie Thomas. I think a little bit too much. Ricky, speaking of you, let's move to one of your guys you love as well, Rui Hachimura.
Well, and with Rui, this is going to be one that maybe people kind of raise an eyebrow because of what type of a player he developed into, but I'm going to compare him to a raw Melo. And the reason why I say that is Carmelo coming out of that Syracuse team was a top pick in that draft, and rightfully so. But with Rui Hachimura, I feel like there's tons of questions with him because of the team that he played on, and it's like Gonzaga with that Brandon Clark also is they had so many older players, and Mark Few knew exactly what he wanted from that team to where Rui never had the opportunity to me to kind of get out of that Gonzaga shell, kind of like how a Zion and RJ broke out with Duke, how a Ja was able to shine in Murray State because he was the guy at Murray State. But with Rui, he's a guy that even if you look at his, and I know it's reaching back about 5 years ago where he was on the under-17 FIBA for Japan, he shows a lot of shooting, driving, defense. And to me, the only question with him is his three-point shooting. Because, yes, if you look at the percentage this year, he shot 41% from beyond the arc, but he was only averaging 1-3 per game overall this season. And when I look at Melo early on, that rookie year with Denver, he shot 32% from three, but then after that, he dropped to like 26, 24, and 26, and really didn't add that 3-point to his game until those Nick days later in his career. So with Rui, I look at it more of like a raw Melo for what we maybe saw in New York of can be a guy that develops on a team, and if he develops that 3-point shot, he's going to be something special. And I know you make that face, Sean, because you just don't like Rui. You hate Rui.
I think it's a bad... I mean, the biggest thing that I loved about Carmelo Anthony was I don't think he was afraid, and he knew what he was doing offensively. He was a very smart player. He knew where...
I'm saying, raw. He's a raw Melo. He's not exactly what you're going to get.
Had the like, you're talking raw physically and talented.
I think raw I think raw everything.
I don't think he has the mentality, and I don't think that's something you could build up. Carmelo had a fantastic mentality, and that showed in his college days. I mean, he was a freshman leading his team all the way to the national championship, and he had that mentality of he knew where to be on the floor to score. He knew how to score from that position all the way back in college. Yes, he wasn't doing it efficiently, but he had that ability to get to a spot, post up his guy, and score, or get into the lane and draw a foul and score. Rui, there are a lot of times, especially late in games, where he just doesn't know how to score, and he fires up bad shots. He rushes shots too often, and he doesn't know how to get the shots off.
And with the right coach, I think you can fix that.
I don't think so. I think that's mentality, and I don't think you can really fix mentality unless you're doing it consistently out there. And any bad shot or any bad game can immediately screw up his mentality, where I don't think Carmelo had that. I think Carmelo had that mentality of he knew how to score, and if he didn't score, well, it just didn't go in. I'm just going to do it again. I think Hachimura does get kind of shriveled up. He kind of does get scared. I don't think Melo had that.
See, I think that's just something of a coach, and I'm not trying to bash Mark Few with this, but I think that's with the right coach in the NBA, giving him some confidence can really help him out.
I disagree because Hachimura was a 3-year player. I mean, if you're the guy, you should be able to have that mentality, and I think that's just something you have or you don't. I mean, you have that ability to step up to the plate or don't. I don't think Hachimura has that. That's just me personally, though. I think that if we're going to look, I think Giannis might be a better comparison, or a rawer Giannis might be a better comparison than
like rawer than he was when he came to the NBA, because that was like questionable already.
A budget, a watered down Giannis.
Okay.
Let's move to your next one, though, Dave. Tyler Herro.
Yeah, so I'm going with Tyler Herro. I love this kid shooting. He is one of the best pure shooters in this draft. Offensively, gifted player. Defensively, he can hold his own. I think a lot of it is going to be questionable as he needs to put on some additional size at the NBA level to keep up with guys. But I look at him and I see exactly what a lot of people want to easy comp it to, which is like you want to give it to like the Luke Kennards. You want to give it to guys like last year with Landry Shamet. He's longer than Shamet, which is good for him. Defensively, I think he's a bit better than him. But he's such an incredible shooter that I just look at that talent and I'm like, it's the most valuable thing. It's one of the most valuable things in the NBA, which has skyrocketed his draft stock late in the season because he was able to show up for the last month of the year. He was so productive. Really, as Keldon Johnson fell, Tyler Herro absolutely skyrocketed his own stock. So I look at him as, yet again, somebody who can come in, develop the rest of his game, but you can always count on that shooting. He's going to be a productive player day one off the bench.
Who are you comparing to?
I'm sticking with the lazy comps. I'm going somewhere between Shamet and Luke Kennard, who, as of late, I'm just saying I called Luke Kennard's epic rise as of late.
I called Shamet, so there we go.
You're right.
But I
pat
think,
each other on the back.
I think Herro is definitely going to be a guy that I think Shamet has more ability to create for himself. I think that's one thing that he does have, and I think Kennard's adding that as well. So I think that's one thing that Herro would need to add is the ability to create.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good though already. Like he's not JJ Redick bad at creating for himself. JJ Redick's one of the most elite 3-point shooters in the game. It's always off a screen. It's always off motion for him, and he's absolutely bar none one of the best. But Tyler Herro, I think he has the ability to create. I think he has a little bit of that. When you talk shooting splits, he's doing stuff as a freshman that barely a handful of people have done. If you want to talk about his splits, I mean, he was putting up 46% from the field, 35 from 3, and 93 from the line. Yeah, he's in elite company.
Well, and John, I want to bring you in here real quick, just because you have him going to the Celtics above your last guy in Brandon Clark. What do you see in Herro, at least for the Celtics?
I agree with Dave's been saying. The comp that I have is Devin Booker. Prospect and rookie Devin Booker.
I didn't want to give him that because just saying that name out loud makes people get mad at me. So thank you, John.
He's still a young player. What I don't like is people, for me, I think is limited when I try to compare players to Hall of Fame players.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to give people an idea of who these guys are, you have to show them a player that has potential and not production. So you give them a young player who has a similar type of skill set. I think Booker and Herro has the same amount of skill set. And just to go back earlier, for me, when I compare things, I go skill set. So I don't really the Hachimera and Anthony comparison. I don't get because Anthony is one of those players who can put the ball in front of him while the defender is guarding him. So he can go left, he can go right, he can pull up, or he can turn around and protect the ball with his body. Hachimera, I don't think has that ability. He keeps his body in between the ball and the defender, and he plays offense much differently because of that. He's sort of like a straight line dribbler, and then has a turnaround jump shot, like a half turn jump shot. They both have excellent mid range games, but I think that as far as mentality, Carmelo is just he's always been the best player in the gym until he came to the NBA, and he has that mentality. He still can make every shot he shoots. I don't think Hachimura has that natural confidence in his shooting ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with you with the Melo thing too. I think that again, Hachimura is an interesting player, so it's tough to find a nail down one. But I think Herro, we've seen that kind of player before. I think he's definitely gonna be a guy that can translate to the NBA. It's just really, can he hit the ceiling of a Devin Booker, or would he be more like just a role player?
Well, if he a role player who has great efficiency,
exactly.
Those guys play a long time.
I mean, you could say like Steve
they're very valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you said Steve Kerr-esque, and he had such a very long career, and
one
so
of the best
efficient.
Players in the NBA.
So efficient.
Look at JJ Redick; he's getting pounded on the last couple of years for his, as far as defense.
But I mean, $20 million a year. Who's going to
argue? Shooter?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move into my next one. This guy, John, I kind of wish you were here a little bit earlier, just so I compared him to a young player to give him the skill set. I thought that was great advice. Give him a young player so you could see the skill set. I went the opposite. I went with Al Harrington, but Al Harrington from the CBA and the Big Three
for Naz Reid.
I think you look at Al Harrington. Al Harrington in the CBA had a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of cutting to the basket, and he showed a lot of ability to pass to open players. And Naz Reid, in very limited times, has shown the ability to show really good passing. He's not a really good ball handler. He's not a really good driver, even a straight-line driver. He's not good at attacking the basketball, dribbling it, and attacking. But when he does lose the ball, he's still able to gather himself, find an open guy, and make a really nice pass, a clean, crisp pass to his defender. And offensively, he's a guy that can post up like Al Harrington's doing right now in the Big Three, throwing up crazy shots, scoring buckets. And also Al Harrington back in CBA days, the Chinese Basketball Association, he was shooting threes. And Naz Reid can shoot. He can stroke it. So I'm going Naz Reid, Al Harrington, some CBA and Big Three stuff. He's a little bit more athletic than Al Harrington was back in those days and right now. But I'm going to go with Al Harrington, at least from the China Basketball Association and the Big Three days. Big into Naz Reid though. John, I'm kind of upset that I don't see Naz Reid. I do see Naz Reid to the Thunder.
The Thunder, he's there.
All right.
He's there.
It's a great fit, right?
Well, nobody's as high as you on Naz Reid.
Yeah, that's
very true. I'm giving him the Hall of Fame comparison of Al Harrington and the Chinese Basketball Association.
No, I think it's a good comparison. I think that
yes.
you see Naz, what I identified in Al Harrington and Naz Reid is Al Harrington always has superior talent.
Yes.
He didn't produce an NBA. And Naz Reid, he's just a freshman. But you can imagine him 3 more years playing for LSU, what he would do to the SEC in basketball.
I'd be scared, John.
Yes, he'd be knocking players into the stands. He just looks like that player, like if he really gets it and turns around, knows what he wants to do, he can explode to the basket. So for me, I give him a Rasheed Wallace.
Ooh, okay.
I think that the skill set you point out what you think that Naz Reid has, I think is on point.
I think the only thing that separates him and Sheed is just the fact that Sheed was ready to kill somebody, and Naz Reid doesn't have that. But at least skill set wise, yes.
True, yes.
That's the biggest thing that's holding back Naz Reid is his motor.
Well, Rasheed couldn't help himself. He came from Philadelphia.
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna change things up now just for the last two. Just combine them. So, John, why don't you give us your last two and Grant Williams and Darius Bazley?
Just really quick. I just watched the Sixers Nets game.
Yeah.
For all your listeners, Sixers won.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But Jared Dudley was jumping off the screen to me for Grant Williams.
Oh.
I think when we talked earlier, I think the last month I had Clarence Weatherspoon from the old Sixers player.
You really
Grant
did,
Williams.
yeah.
But Jared Dudley, I see a lot of commonalities. But Jared Dudley today, I think he thinks he's a protectorate. Grant Williams is not that type of leader. Grant Williams is a positive leader, a lot like Ray Lewis was for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
I think he's a shorty. I think he's 6'4.5", 6'5"-ish, so he may slide in the...
No, Grant's 6'7". Schofield's
like 6'5".
He's
listed at 6'7". We'll see.
Yeah, everybody seems to think he's about 6'5".
Okay.
So we'll see. That one's going to be interesting.
It's the opposite of Jared Culver?
Yes. Everybody wants Jared Culver to be bigger. Everyone knows Grant Williams is smaller.
He's like the Kevin Durant.
Gotcha.
And the other player, real quickly, McDaniels. I have Rudy Gay as his comp. A guy who has decent mid-range game, not much of a three-pointer. He has really good feet. He can be a help defender. That's what I got.
Yeah, and I will say Jalen McDaniels, different than his brother Jaden McDaniels, a guy that we haven't talked too much about in the mock drafts. So Jalen McDaniels out of San Diego State University, a guy that's in my late second round. There's talk that he might go back to college, so we'll definitely have to see what happens there. But if he comes out, he's definitely an interesting player in that second round.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid role player for some teams. Coming off the bench, can provide some offense.
Mm-hmm.
Can find his place on defense. I think that he's going to have a decent career in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. Ricky,
he's a shooter. 6'10" shooter. He has potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in the NBA today. That's what you're looking for. That's the reason why you like Bol Bol. It's just because guys who are that big can stretch out the floor like that.
Absolutely.
And he's a volume shooter.
Yeah.
There's other players who can shoot, but give it to Bol Bol. He's like Carmelo Anthony. He's going to shoot it. He's going to chuck it up there.
He's definitely
don't expect the ball back.
Ricky, let's give your last two in Nasir Little and Carson Edwards.
So my last two. First, I'm going to start off with Carson Edwards. I think he's going to be a better Lou Williams. The reason why I say that is you're thinking of Lou Will right now.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the last 2 years, think back 3 years ago. That's
Houston Rockets Lou Will?
Yeah, that's the Lou Will we're going to see Carson Edwards be sooner rather than later, because Lou Will had a career that was not so hot to start, and then realistically, like the last few years, we're seeing what Lou Will could be. Mm-hmm. I think Carson Edwards hits that potential sooner and is exactly what Lou Will is to a team. Second round pick, scoring off the bench, develops into a solid 6-man for an NBA team. And then Nasir Little, I look at it and it's just, he's a worse Jaylen Brown to me. And the reason why I say that is they both have similar skill sets to getting to the basket. Nasir Little, the defensive side, is a strong point for him. But it's just they were both guys that were inconsistent, and also both guys that we were all very negative on coming out into the draft. So Nasir Little probably prove us wrong like Jaylen Brown did.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we did take back a little bit too was the biggest thing that we overlooked, at least, was Jaylen Brown's determination. And he's also a very, very smart player. The rumors coming out that he was taking master's classes when he was a freshman at Cal. That's something that we really didn't talk about too much.
Cal's no joke.
Yeah, seriously. So I mean, he was a very smart player. And
whereas Nasir Little went to UNC, where they said the basketball players are the easiest classes possible.
Yeah,
they don't have to go to class.
Yeah, they don't have to go. They let other students do that for them.
So that's the one thing that might be a little bit of a take back there for why Nasir Little might not hit there. It's just because he doesn't have that determination that Jaylen Brown is. But hey, what are we talking about? We don't know these guys yet. So maybe maybe Nasir Little hits the league and he flips the switch. So it'd be interesting to see. But Nasir Little, at least body wise, definitely I could see the comparison to Jaylen Brown. Now, Dave, give us your last two. Kevin Porter Jr. and TH2.
Sure. So I'm going to start with THT because I think he's a fun prospect because he's just a weird size combination, great wingspan to him. I liken him to a PJ Tucker. It's the little, he's smaller in height, but he can absolutely go up against larger guys. Defensively, I think there's a lot of room for THT to grow. Offensively, his game needs polish, but you look at his form, you look at what he can do, what he can bring to the table, and I think he can have a career similar to a PJ Tucker. Very valuable because PJ Tucker's got the basketball IQ at this point in his career, but coming early in his career, it was very much on his body. And then with Kevin Porter Jr., I hate doing this, but I agree with Kevin O'Connor in the JR comparison because it's like, this guy actually has just incredible. Like, I wanted to be like, he's going to be a shitty version of James Harden, but at the same time, like, that's sort of J.R. Smith. Like, he can do some incredible things with his offensive game. If you watch his highlight reel, you're like, this guy's a top 5 pick. If you watch the whole game, you're like, there's a reason this guy's not a top 10 pick.
Do we know his favorite kind of soup, though?
We don't yet. Okay. We do know that he has had some issues with his teammates. We've had some issues with his coach. So the soup thing might not be far away. So I love him from a top-end potential, but he's got red flags everywhere. Yeah,
and I think one thing that kind of intrigues me, at least with you, John, is seeing what's it called, Talen Horton-Tucker to the Bulls. Why do you like him to the Bulls? Is it just because he's a Chicago kid?
Talent.
Yeah,
I think that he's top 30. For me, he's a 30-35 player. I don't know about the PJ Tucker comparison. PJ's kind of like rock solid, and Horton-Tucker is a pudgy guy.
He gets
PJ played a lot of power forward early in his career, and I think Horton Tucker is going to play two guard.
You think he's going to play two guard at 240, 250 range?
I don't think he'll be 240 next year.
That's what I'm saying. Like the way
you were talking about earlier with the nutrition and with all these guys through their bodies.
He's not dropping 30 pounds for Horton Tucker to
lose weight than Bobo gain weight.
Okay, I won't disagree with you on that one.
All right, let's move to my last two. I got Goga Batazde, the center. The Serbian center from overseas. I have if Enes Kanter could also play defense and shoot the three ball. He's a super intriguing player, very quick, like Enes Kanter. He can dribble like Enes too. Enos is very good at taking from the top of the key, dribbling and attacking.
Yeah.
He's very good at on trailing, getting the ball in his hands from like near the 3-point line and then driving in and attacking the bucket. Goga's very very good at that as well, but he also can do that just on the defensive side. He's very good at weak side blocks. He's very good at just bodying up a guy trying to drive as well and stuffing shots. Goga's a very smart player. And I think just if Cantor could play defense, you would see Goga Batiste. So it's a guy that it will be definitely very intriguing because he is a modern-day 5 who can shoot the 3. So if he's I have him a little bit lower, kind of like what you said a little bit earlier, John, with Sekou. There is that European bias. I don't think he's going to be taken that high.
I feel like he's got such a solid floor, like one of the best in this draft class probably.
But talent-wise, it's all there, and he's extremely gifted. And the
I
last
have
guy...
Loge because of fit.
Fit? Okay.
Yeah, centers are tricky. Yeah,
that's. I mean, not a lot of teams need center outside of the Hawks, and I don't think the Hawks are going to go after a guy like Goga.
A lot of centers have been coming to the league the last couple of years.
It's true.
Yeah,
and a lot of times you can get by with the just another guy. Pick somebody up in free agency for a year or two, keep on moving. It's not one of those positions where the top end guys massively impactful, but everybody else, you get by.
And my last guy's going to be KZ Akpala from Stanford. I'm going to go with an offensive Tayshaun Prince because Tayshaun was an elite defender. But at least when you're looking... Thank you. When you're looking strictly offensively, guys that can put the ball on the floor, guys that can attack, guys that can move the ball as well, and guys that can score. And one thing that I think KZ's going to need to do is just improve shooting-wise. And Tayshaun was a decent free throw shooter. I think that's something that KZ's going to need to build up on. But that's something that, is something that you can put work into and
He's
become
in the project
a better free throw shooter. Yeah. So I think if we're talking strictly offense, I think he looks like Tayshaun Prince. But Tayshaun was an elite defender, so that was the reason why he stayed in the league for so long. But that's going to do it. For our comps, John, we want to thank you for coming on. Your mock draft is really intriguing, and you got all 60 picks in there too, which I like. You didn't skip out on your picks, and you didn't skip out of your cops, which we appreciate, and we can't wait to have you on in May.
Okay, it's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, John. But let's move into the last topic, and we're going to welcome on our patron, Zohnny Washington. It's been a long time since we talked to Z. And if you want to talk to us on the podcast, come in and check out patreon.com/mostofpodcast. You can check out the $10 tier, but we're welcoming in our favorite Suns fan, Z. Z, it's been a long time. How you been?
I've been better than I deserve, fellas.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're doing good. And I think since you're a patron, I think you deserve a lot. And I think being a Suns fan too and having patience, I think that also is very deserving of being good.
Which is not rewarding.
Not yet.
Exactly. Yet. So it's kind of like what's it called? When you're we're around the what's it called? The religious holidays. What's it before death? What's it called? Before you get to heaven.
Purgatory.
Yeah, you're in the Suns' purgatory right now. You're just waiting for them to be good.
Wait.
But it's going to pay off, hopefully, for your Suns.
I mean, at least the Lakers' struggles have got to be giving you some type of, happiness right now, right, though, Z? Like, watching their turmoil, you're like, ooh, at least they're not having fun either.
It's funny because I just find a new we're talking about Game of Thrones earlier. I just find a new enemy like Cersei. Like, no matter, the House Lakers suck now, but now I'm turning my attentions to Sir Luka. I hate that dude.
Why do you hate Luka?
Just because, man,
is it because it took
all the
DeAndre
attention he's getting, and everybody's like, DeAndre Ayton should have been picked like 5th, but this dude's averaging 16 and 11 or something crazy.
So quietly.
17 and 11. Give him his respect, man.
So it's not because
I'm just a hater.
It's not because you wanted Luka. It's because you want more respect for your boy DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm happy with what we got. I like our little nucleus.
I'm just saying, Luka might have been a good fit for that team.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, you are going to be adding to that nucleus no matter what. Y'all have the third best. I guess you guys are, you're slotted into the third odds. It's such a weird thing because we're so used to the last year. But you guys are you finished with the third worst record, tied for the third worst with Cleveland. You have the 52.1% odds for the top 4, just like New York, Cleveland. And yourselves, and then you also have 14% chance for the number 1 overall pick, like New York, Cleveland, and Phoenix as well. So you guys have the highest chances with 2 other teams to get the number 1 overall pick. And article came out today from The Athletic, from Sam V. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, out of respect for him. And he said, sources around the NBA are buzzing that Morant is actually the player the Suns prefer to end up with, particularly Jones, is thought to be a fan of the dynamic lead guard. It's not a surprise given their need at the point guard position, but color me skeptical that the team would actually take him number one. So we're talking now today, if the Phoenix Suns get the number one overall pick, should they take Ja Morant over Zion Williamson? And Z, I'm going to go to you. First off, what do you think about the other Z in Zion Williamson, and what do you think about Ja Morant before you give us the answer on should they take Ja over Zion number one?
Man, he's something that we've never seen before, you know? I mean, you guys pay way more attention to sports or basketball and stuff than the average fan does. And, I mean, I haven't heard, like a template or somebody who we could compare this dude to. Just his, I mean, the uber athleticness that he has, you know, people, you want to say like Dominique or Sean Kemp or LeBron, and then just his body size and the position that he plays. You know, people want to say Charles Barkley, or Charles. You know, I heard even Grandma Ma being mentioned, Larry Johnson, but I mean, that's no comparison. But I mean, he's, you know, the college player of the year as a freshman, you know what I mean? Just the impact that he has on the court and off the court. Just, you know, I thought the Suns having the number one pick and picking the hometown kid and all this stuff would be enough to bring like some popular and, attention towards this way. But I mean, on the contrary, everybody's up Luka's butt and Trae Young and stuff. But, you know, there's nothing anyone can say negative if we were to pick Zion, and just the impact that he'll have on the court too. Just, you know, the defensive liability that people like to say DeAndre is. I mean, having this dude who can damn near fly from anywhere on the court to protect the rim, that's going to be a big addition defensively, and just the intimidating presence he'll bring on that side. And then offensively, I mean, he can handle the ball, he can shoot a little bit. Obviously, he's a monster in the open court. In the half court, I'm pretty sure we could Igor would be able to draw up some plays and, you know, backdoor screens and lobs and stuff to, you know, get him active in the half court game. But I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about Little Z, as I'll call him. I'm Big Z, so there's room enough though. There's room enough in Arizona.
You're willing to show you're a gracious guy.
I am. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
I think he appreciates that. And what do you think about Ja Morant? Because you came on right away and pretty much said we need a point guard. So what do you when watching him and at least knowing what he's like and what he's about, do you think he can help the Suns in the way that you think the Suns need point guard help?
You can, and I mean this, man, and I swear I wish I could like go back in time and speak to you guys like a year ago, but I've been on the Ja Morant hype train, man, before the season started. Ooh. And I was telling everybody, like, man, this dude, Ja Morant, like, mark my words, if you don't know about him, you are going to. And sure as, I don't want to cuss, but sure as shoot, this dude is, you know, people are contemplating whether he should be the number one pick overall. And just, I mean, he reminds me of like a little Russ, man, a little Russell Westbrook, just, you know, just the intensity he plays with. Talk about uber athleticism, dunking over dudes, and you know what I mean, just that ferociousness that he has. And you know, I heard one of my friends talking about Colin Sexton, like, oh, he's just like another Colin Sexton. Heck no, like he's more controlled. Like I think that's that's Westbrook's problem, is like he's all this energy and stuff, and sometimes he can, you know, be a little uncontrollable, and you know, all the turnovers. I think I heard him say that he's averaging like 6 turnovers a game in the playoffs this year so far. And I mean, when you handle the ball as much as Russ does and Ja does, you're going to have turnovers. But I mean, for this dude to damn near be averaging a triple double, you know, with the rebounds, the assists, and obviously the scoring, it's something that can definitely translate, I think, to the Suns. And then just having Booker, who's been playing point Book, and you know, taking some of that responsibility away from Book, and then on the same hand, or the other hand, Book taking away the ball handling responsibilities from Ja, I think that'll turn down his turnovers, proneness. And I mean, we need a point guard, dude. Anybody who plays point guard good, we need that. And I think definitely he'll be way more than what we can anticipate from that position, or what we've been getting since Nash left, really, or Bled, or Dragic.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that since you've been on, in the past year, that you and Dave just haven't talked about your love of Ja Morant, because I remember Dave talking about Ja Morant post draft last year too. So I mean, it's crazy that you're now in the spot to either hopefully take the guy that you've been in love with in Ja Morant, or one of the best college prospects we've seen in Zion Williamson. We know our thoughts obviously on these players, Zion Williamson, Ja Morant. So let's go to the Suns guy first, in Z, and if you're the Suns, number one overall, who are you going with? Are you going with Zion Williamson, obviously the best prospect in this draft, or are you going with the guy that you still love and fills that positional need?
With my love for Ja being into this equation that I came up with, I still have to go with Zion, man, because
you're a smart man, Z. You're a smart man.
There's mind over matter, and you think about it, like, it's not easier, but you'll have a more feasible time trying to find a point guard, especially coming up. I know damn near everybody who's a good point guard is a restricted free agent this coming up all season, but I mean, there's plenty of ways we can go to fill the point guard hole that we have. But as far as that 4 spot, and I think that's where we'd end up putting Zion is at the 4. And like what Derek Favors, who can fill that 4 spot for us? And like you can't find, there isn't anyone in history that we could compare him to. There's nobody in the league right now. I mean, you could try to say Blake, but I don't know. I mean that's probably the best comparison, but I don't think that does Zion justice either. But you'll have an easier time trying to replace what Ja can do as opposed to what Zion could do. So if the gods favor us, the old gods and the new, just on this Game of Thrones.
I love it.
If we could find favor again, man, and the good Lord blesses us to get the number 1 pick again. I mean, if I'm James Jones, I'm definitely going with the guy from Duke and putting him at the 4, and then trying to go elsewhere, whether it be trade. I just seen the Bleacher Report article pop up saying that the Suns were one of the favorites to pursue Drew Holiday along with you guys as Bulls too. But we can go with Drew. We can go with what's the dude, the backup from Boston?
Terry Rozier.
Yep.
Scary Terry. We could go that route. We could try to offer D'Angelo Russell a big contract. Try to trade for Lonzo. There's options we can go with point guard. But I mean, you're not going to replace a Zion or a 4.
Yeah,
find a 4 like him. So.
I agree with you on that front. My question is, as Zion fits in with this team, like, what is his role going to be like at the next level? Because a lot of people watch him dominate in smaller competition at college, and while it is one of the most enjoyable things to watch him swat a ball 30 feet, just completely out into the stands, his help defense is awesome, but offensively, like, where does he really fit in with this team? Because obviously, like, fast break, he's amazing. But can he run where's his role in like the half court offense with Dev Booker at the point, or one of these free agent guards that you might be able to pick up?
I mean, I don't know, man.
That's the thing.
Unfortunately,
I don't know if anybody has an answer yet, because it's just like my assumption is just it's gonna work. Like, he is such a talented player and he's such a unique build physically that I'm like, I don't know what he's going to do on the court, but he's going to be out there. He's going to be awesome.
Doing something.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if he's a 20-point-a-game scorer guy at the NBA, but I think he's one of the most impactful players that's going to be in this draft. I
mean, I think he's strong enough to, get in the paint. And really, like, I was thinking about this. There's big men in the NBA, but there's not a whole lot of, like, traditional, like big size big men anymore. Yeah. Like right now playing the 4, like there's not a whole bunch of dudes who are gonna be able to like move him off the block and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you want to just make him a traditional forward because you're doing a disservice to your team.
No, but he's got the strength because of his size.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I just think about like Draymond, like obviously there's two different types of players, but you put Draymond at the 4 and Draymond's like 6'6", 6'5" or something like that, similar to Zion. And I mean, he could shoot it a little bit. I think he could move. He could take somebody off the dribble. You know what I mean? Or just like run plays. I mean, that's where you pay these coaches all this money. Like they better figure out how to use Zion.
I think if they
can't, then I mean, what the hell are you doing coaching in the NBA?
I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me, at least in Zion's game, is his ability to do whatever you ask him to. And I think that's the easiest thing that's going to pan out for anyone who has him, especially for Igor, because, you know, I don't think you need to really find a traditional role for him at all. I think the biggest thing you just need to be able to do is just make sure he's touching the ball. Because if he's touching the ball, something's going to happen. He's either going to find somebody who's open. He's either going to be able to take his man and take him to the bucket. He's either going to, you know, be able to find a way. I mean, he's not a guy that turns over the ball over a ton either. He'll either pass it back and just, you know, keep the ball safe and then go up and set a screen. I mean, he's a guy that stays active. He's a guy that finds a way. He's a guy that, even when he's not getting the ball in his hands, I mean, you know, let's say Devin Booker just misses a 3, Zion will be near there, you know, grabbing offensive boards. And that's one thing, too, that, and before, you know, you jump in, Ricky, you having DeAndre Ayton and Zion Williamson, you know, down low grabbing offensive boards for you, I don't think that's going to be able to be, you know, matched up against.
That's pretty
I mean, it's one of the best combos there, at least offensively.
All the damn rebounds.
Yeah.
The only way I don't take Zion, and I wouldn't do this, by the way, but the only way I don't is if, like, in Tankathon before we started the segment, I hit Sim the lottery, and it ended up Phoenix at 1, the Hawks at 2, Bulls at 3. If that lines up, then if, let's say, I don't want Zion and I want Ja, I'm calling the Bulls. I'm saying, how much do you want Ja? Because I know the Hawks wouldn't take Ja. Now, the Hawks could make a trade because they've done it before, and then you might not get Ja at 3. But the thing I'm already looking at is I'm Phoenix. If I get the number 1 pick, I'm running that Zion pick up to the podium. Because just look at the point guard. Next year, we're going to have a wealthy point guard class. There's 2 guys from France that could be lottery picks. There's Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois. There's Nico Manning, who I am already falling in love with him. Like watching his Hoop Summit, watching his highlight tape, I am really falling in love with him. And then we're also going to have
he's from out here, right?
Yeah, he is. He's going to Arizona.
Yeah.
Then you've got
He
Cole.
went to Pinnacle.
Did he? I didn't know he went to Pinnacle, but I know he committed. But Cole Anthony probably will go to UNC, but he's a kid that could still go to Oregon. He's kind of deciding between the two. LaMelo is going to be in this class, and whatever you think about the Ball family, like LaMelo is supposed to be the best of the 3. That I kind of look at the Suns and I go, if I'm at 1, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to take Zion because next year, even if I'm still in the lottery, there could be a point guard that I can get next year.
Well, and the thing too is you're not in a huge rush because DeAndre Ayton's still super young. Devin Booker just signed his contract extension, and he's still super young. He's not even 24 yet. I believe. I think he's still 22, right, G?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Booker will be 23 in October, so I mean, you still have a lot of time to wait for Devin Booker, and I mean, he still needs some growing to do as well. So I mean, there's time for him to really mature. And one thing too, you bring up LaMelo. I just saw him next to his brother. He's bigger than Zoe, which is crazy.
Lonzo said he's going to be a lottery pick.
So it's super interesting to see what happens there. If he does pan out, we got to give a shout out to Negro Damas on Twitter. He's been talking to me about that. He also said Bol Bol's a top 3 pick. I'll lean towards LaMelo over Bol Bol there, but I think it's definitely going to be interesting for the Suns. I don't see there's a way that they pass up Zion Williamson, and I don't think Sam V from The Athletic was saying that. There's just buzz that they might. And I would wonder if they get the number 1 overall pick.
Would you make a trade?
That's what I was going to bring up. Is I don't think so, just because we're talking about Zion, and there's no reason to pass him up. There's no reason to trade him away, and yes, you do need a point guard, but I don't think that's worth passing up a guy who can be a generational player for a guy like Ja Morant. And even then, like, I don't think you'll be able to find enough value for it because you really don't know the value of a Zion Williamson. Because if you give him up for 3 first-round picks, you might be underselling him there.
Do you want to be put in the same category as the Portland Trailblazers?
I don't think Bowie will be that bad. But Ja Morant won't be as bad as Sam.
But
Bowie.
I'm saying, like, if Zion becomes what we think he could be, it would be almost that category. Almost.
I don't know. I think it's funny though because like we had Jerry West came out and talked about how Zion is in that like can't miss area of prospects. It's like it would be Michael Jordan-esque to pass on him. So I think coming from Jerry West at that point, you want to just frame those words on the wall and be like, well, that's the truth. Like I know Paul Pierce is the truth, but no, Jerry West's opinion on basketball and prospects.
I don't know if Paul Pierce is the truth anymore after saying Pierce, he's better than D Wade.
Yeah, he definitely hurt himself with that one. But whatever, he's an honest guy with a lot of self something.
He tells his truth.
Self-belief.
Yeah, self-belief. Yeah.
Tells his truth is also a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't think a trade's going to happen if the Suns are in that position for number one. I don't see a reason to because yes, need is super important, but we've talked about this time and time again. If you trade him and Zion turns out to be a next level player, if he becomes a top 10 player, you're going to look stupid. And even if Ja turns into be an all-star, but he's not a top 10 player, you're still passed up, Zion for that. It would have to be like a Dallas Mavericks Trae Young trade, but I don't think you're going to be able to find that because, and also I don't think you're going to be in a reason to, if you're out there and you take Ja number one, you're just going to give the next team, Zion Williamson. So like if they are going to take Ja, I think they're going to have to trade down if they do get the number one overall pick. But if they get the number one overall pick, I think it's going to be Zion. I don't think there's a reason not to. Like I'm not worried about his health that much. I'm not worried about his fit in the NBA. Some people are saying that he's not a next generation talent. He might not be. I mean, Zion might not hit in this draft. It's a possibility.
But I think it's one of those risks you have to take.
Yeah, and I don't really think it's that much of a risk. That's the thing.
Yeah, me either.
Go ahead, Z. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say like just being a Suns fan, you just kind of like go through these different scenarios and something that you take into consideration is like the backlash. Like so if we draft Zion and worst case scenario, injuries riddle his career or he doesn't pan out or he's just not as good as we thought he was going to be, or even if he's just a complete bust, like nobody can blame us for that because the whole world was saying draft Zion. But if you pass on him and he's what we think he is, then you're screwed. You know what I mean? Like we're never going to be able to live that down. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too because you've been watching Devin Booker for what 4 years now, and he's been a guy that you either love Devin Booker or you hate Devin Booker. Dave brought this up last segment where our patron John compared Tyler Herro
Dave's eyes of like, what did I say?
To Devin Booker.
He perked up like a meerkat.
And immediately Dave was like, yeah, I didn't want to bring him up because people are just going to give me shit if I bring up Devin Booker. Whether because Devin Booker's better than that comparison or Devin Booker's not worth that comparison.
Who did he compare him to?
Tyler Herro from Kentucky.
What?
College production, one of the most efficient shooters.
It was just really
the upside that could be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
see, you have the same reaction.
College Booker.
Yeah,
college Booker.
Yeah,
Make that distinction, though, man.
Yeah, he said college Booker, prospect Booker.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, though, like, I mean,
people, no problem with that.
Okay.
People see Devin Booker and they're either like, he's a force, and I think you believe he's a force.
So
or
worst player to have back-to-back 50 games, right?
Yeah, or he's the worst player to have back-to-back 50 games.
Whoa.
He's the worst player to score 60-plus. Like, I mean, people either love him or hate him and want to tear him down.
Yeah, so I mean it is what it is, but I agree. Like he is such a polarizing player.
Well, and the reason is because, like I said, man, unfortunately the Suns aren't good, and they haven't been good in a long time. And I mean, there's really nothing Arizona has going for as far as sports is concerned.
Yeah,
like all of our sports teams suck except for the Mercury. And then the fake football league that was out, the hot shots, we were doing good, but then the damn league so
ran out of money.
every successful team, you know what I mean? The Coyotes barely missed the playoffs and like all this junk. And I mean, like anything good that we got going for us, we try to hold it. And like Arizona is full of transplants, so like it's like a whole lot of people from LA, from Texas, from Mexico, from all these other places, and there's not a lot of natives. So anything that Arizona has that's good, or Phoenix, or whatever the case, we try to hold on to it, and we're protected over the things we got going for us. So, I mean, that's just the reason why you'll get such a, I mean, I don't even know how loud Suns Twitter is, but that's why you'll get like a backlash or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just because, I mean, even the damn, what's that basketball show on ESPN?
The Jump?
Like, that girl, what's her name? Rachel
Nichols. Yeah.
Every single time she opens her mouth about the Suns, it's something super negative, dude.
Yeah,
and it's just like that's how we're perceived, and rightfully so. From the top of our organization down to the bottom, it's been a poo-poo show lately.
Yeah, man.
And you know what I mean?
Suns fans are
anything good, we're just protected.
Well, and I think the big thing too is that I think Phoenix needs some what's it called? Just something. I had the word in my head, now I completely forgot it. Just something that gives them validation, or just like gives them like, all right, we are here, and you cannot question this part, because you even brought this up, like the success of Arizona franchises. Like Phoenix, it does not have an NBA title. The Cardinals do not have a Super Bowl title.
That was bullshit, by the way.
Yeah, and same with the
Suns
Suns
too.
too.
Back on the return, and I will argue that to the day I die.
Suns and Barkley made it to the finals. The whole San Antonio Holmes thing, like that.
Yeah.
That was bullshit. What's this? Harrison shouldn't have actually had that touchdown.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Diamondbacks World Series as well.
More Goldie.
Yeah,
we got a World Series.
Yeah, we got a World Series, but even then, you look at your best player, the guy who hit the game winner in that Game 7 or whatever it was in Arizona, Luis Gonzalez. He was roided out. So it's immediately like
they were all roided out then.
Luis Gonzalez was especially roided out.
We don't question it. Like they were all taking something.
But that's the thing is, like, you could even question that, and like you even look at it like, oh, Kurt Schilling was your number 2, and Kurt Schilling's now like enemy number 1 because he's a huge asshole.
Yeah. Who was roided out?
Yeah, who was also roided out. So that's the thing is,
at
like,
least we got the Mercury, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just hold on to them.
You got the Mercury, and then even Arizona, like the Coyotes, like they have not. There's always rumors that they're going to leave, and they're not even like.
You said Arizona, and whenever you say Arizona, I think Wildcats before I think Coyotes.
Well, even then, no, you look at the Arizona Wildcats as well. Sean Miller.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that right now.
It's really depressing talk.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you get Zion, that's not depressing. That's something that's saying we are here, we are real, we are something that cannot be questioned.
Zion could be to the
question.
Suns, but Derrick Rose was to the Bulls, except Derrick Rose was hometown.
They give you an authority.
DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton.
So that's the question is, if you want to establish that you are here and Zion's doing this, how many wins is this team going to have next year? Because if you think that Zion is, the impactful player that he is, like, are we talking about a run for an 8 seed here?
Bro, look.
The battle with Luka.
We would have, I'm not saying we would have made the playoffs, but we would have hit 30-something wins if we had a point guard, man. Mm-hmm. And I believe that, bro. Like, I believe that very, very strongly. If we had a point guard who could run the offense and feed DeAndre Ayton, I mean, it was a stretch where, like, dude only had, like, 6 shots a game. Yeah. And it's like, how does that happen? Like, you got to feed this dude. And then, I mean, all the injuries. And I mean, if we had a point guard, bro, I think we would have won like 30-something games. So that could just be me as a brainwashed Suns fan.
No, and that's fine. Like, as a Bulls fan, I'm like, we're a playoff team. Like, no questions asked. So, like, we're completely good with these takes on the show. So you think that they can jump from 19 to, the range of, like, the upper 30s going into next year?
That's all I want. As long as we're not in the damn, like,
top 4?
10, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I would have been happy this year with like 26 wins.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I mean, and you guys still would have been in 15th in the West.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think I don't know about upper 30s for even adding Zion, but I think it would just bring motion to this rebuild finally. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you even have like rumors coming out that it's the worst front office ever, and you have Sarver, who's seen as the worst owner. Like, I mean, getting Zion, not only would it add wins to this team, not only would it add something that gives you an authority there, and it would just give you something to, I think, more hope, at least in Phoenix. And it wouldn't just be a team that's kind of just the deserted wasteland. I think even if you get Ja too, like Ja will still have this impact. But if you have the number 1 overall pick, I think this is why you can't pass up Zion. If you get Ja, I think things are still going to be golden.
At 2 or 3,
it's still going to push things forward. And I think this is going to be a team that could get to like 25 wins for sure. But it is something that if you get the number 1 overall pick, you have to get Zion because it's just going to add credibility to your team.
Yeah.
You know, it's very weird that I'm looking up right now. If the Suns get Ja and they go to the playoffs, it would be almost exactly like when the Bulls drafted Derrick Rose. Because you look at it, we were not a playoff team, but you think about it. Our point guards were Duhan and Kurt Heinrich.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk, I love you. Duhan. We had Ben Gordon starting at the 2. We had Luol Deng at the 3, a young Tyrese Thomas at the 4, and a rookie Joakim Noah at the 5.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly,
Derrick Rose, we drafted him. We're a playoff team his rookie year.
That's a fun comp.
I looked at that and I was like, wow. Like, a point guard makes the world of difference in the NBA.
It absolutely does. So, if you get yourself a Zion Williamson and then you get a point guard in free agency, you guys are pretty much set moving forward to compete, hopefully, in that late lottery, potential 8th seed range, maybe.
The one thing though is how bad was the East that year?
Well, I didn't look at that.
So that's the only thing.
The East and West are different.
There are some similarities.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like I don't think the East was that.
I don't want to give credit.
I'm giving them credit. That was actually not.
Don't think the
a
East
crazy take.
No, I know. I'm just saying like.
The West is loaded right now.
That would be the one thing that would hurt the Suns' chances of making the playoffs is the conference they play in.
Yeah. The question that I want to throw.
I don't think it's a bad comp. I'm just saying that's the one thing that probably holds that comp back.
That's
the question I want to throw at you, Z, and I sim the lottery again on Tankathon, which is a terrible thing to do.
That's all Ricky does.
Let's say the top 3 ended out this way. Knicks at 1, Grizz at 2, and then the Suns at 3. If you're at 3 behind the Grizzlies, are you trading up with the Grizz to try to get Ja, or are you going to sit there and go, you know what, I don't think they take Ja, we can get them at 3? Like, if you're the Suns, if you're not at 1 or 2, do you trade up for Ja no matter what, or do you sit back even if you're at 3 and say, no, we can get Ja right there at number 3?
Nope, I'm not trading. I'll see this. I'll wait to see if obviously New York will take Zion. I think Memphis is going to trade or let walk.
Mike Conley.
What's his face? Michael Conley. So I think they're going to definitely go with Ja. And if they didn't, then we pick them up. I think they'd probably be better suited getting a wing, huh?
Yeah,
I don't know. They might go for RJ.
Yeah, I could see that easy.
I think the Grizzlies can go Ja, but yeah, I mean, if they're going to stick and ride with Conley, they're probably going to win.
So put the Bulls there instead. Put the Bulls at 2. Put the Suns at 3. Like, if Ja is off the board and if Zion's off the board, as a Suns fan, what are you doing?
Trade it quick. Trade it quick. Because if we do not need we don't need another wing. I don't want RJ Barrett. I don't want Cam Reddish. What's the point guard out of wherever I don't know. Any other point guard I'm not interested in.
It's either Darius Garland or Kobe White.
Yeah, I'm not interested in either of those, and they might turn out to be the steals of the draft. Who knows? But what I would do as a Suns fan, what would make me happy if Ja and Zion are both off the board, trade it and try to get a point guard that way, a proven guy who's already been in the league, preferably Lonzo. Like, give that pick to the Lakers for Lonzo, and I mean we'd even throw him like Dragon Bender or somebody, I don't know, just to move a contract. Give us Lonzo, and then that'll give you more firepower to get Anthony Davis to LA.
That'd be interesting.
That's what I would say.
It's interesting.
I think Lonzo is like the perfect point guard for the Suns right now.
Yeah, I mean, he'd definitely be interesting because, I mean, you look at the biggest knock on Booker, and I think it's fair, is his lack of defense. And, I mean, Lonzo has been the best defender for the Lakers for the past 2 years. So immediately that's an improvement there. And, I mean, his ability to facilitate is insane. And running the fast break, he's bar none. I mean, one of the better ones. Yeah, it's just really the half court.
His size too, pause.
What's that?
I said his size too, pause. So I mean, I think he's ideal, man. If we could, that's why when this whole Anthony Davis to the Lakers thing, it was all bittersweet because obviously the Lakers are going to get better. But if we could get Lonzo somehow, I mean, godly.
Well, and also, I mean, you got to look at his career in Phoenix. Lonzo Ball, first ever game he had there, he had the triple double. So immediately. He's performed in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So,
and his dad's a prophet. He said all three of them are going to be in Phoenix, so we'll see.
Did he really say that?
Yeah. During all this. He was on a sports radio show out here.
Okay.
And said it.
I love it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the Phoenix talk. If the Suns are at 1, we're all thinking that they should take Zion Williamson. But if they do get the number 2 pick, Ja Morant would be a great pick for them, and I think that would be probably the plan that's going to end up happening. Obviously, we got to see what happens with the lottery on May 14th, right? May 14th.
Mm-hmm.
When is
I
that?
should have this date
Tuesday,
memorized.
May 14th.
Tuesday, May 14th. So obviously, we'll be waiting there. Z will be glued to his TV, hoping that the Suns come up 2 or 1. But we'll have to see until that date. Z, we're so glad that you could join us, and good luck with Game of Thrones, finishing the binge.
The sun will rise.
Winter's here, my friend.
All right.
The sun will rise.
And if you want to be like Z, check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, don't forget to check us out on iTunes. If you're over there, rate us 5 stars. It would mean the absolute world to us. We want to thank Z, we want to thank John, and we want to thank Eric, all for being on the Patreon podcast today. Loaded up with Patreons today. And then next week, we will have another mock draft. And is that going to be the Lotto mock draft?
That's the live lotto.
That's the live Lotto. So, Z, we will have an answer for you on where the Suns will be picking in our mock draft next week. So stay tuned to that. And then for Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time.